her.
Okay. How did she come in somehow differently?
Mariah, can you go ahead and make me the host so we can get our meeting going? And then between Board of Zoning Appeals and Planning Commission, we can figure out YouTube. Okay, great, thank you. All right, let me bring Mrs. Jones over here and then we'll be ready to go. Okay,
Thank you, Janet.
we're ready.
Ready? Okay, good evening. My name is Jeff Carson. I'm the chairman of the Board of Zoning Appeals. I want to welcome you all to the September 14th meeting. I've got a couple of introductions that I'm going to make. First off, we have Gunnar Hand, who's the Director of Land Use and Urban Planning with us tonight. Janet Parker, the Executive Assistant to the Department of Land Use and Urban Planning. Have Byron Toy with the Department of Land Use and Planning staff with us. I also have Daniel Kuhn with the Unified Government Legal Counsel staff. Have the following Board of Zoning Appeals Commissioners available this evening: Commissioner James Ernst, Commissioner Susanna Pauley, Commissioner Jake Miller, Commissioner Brandy Armstrong, Commissioner James Connolly, Commissioner Karen Jones, and I also have Sarah White and Martin Tangira with the Public Works and Engineering Department with Unified Government. I'm going to turn the meeting over now to Janet Parker, who will read the opening statement.
We would like to welcome those participating by telephone or Zoom to the meeting of the Board of Zoning Appeals. Due to the COVID-19 crisis, the members are participating remotely by Zoom. Mr. Jeff Carson is serving as chairman this evening. Please note the following instructions for the meeting. If you are joining by Zoom video, please make sure you have an appropriate background and plan to stay visible during the meeting. Please don't get up and walk around. When speaking, if you have not been announced by the chairman, you must raise your hand feature and wait to be unmuted by the chairman. Board members use the raise your hand feature to speak, and please state your name when you begin to speak. If you need to recuse or if you need a personal break, use the raise your hand feature. If you are having issues getting in the Zoom meeting, please email planninginfo@wicokck.org and let Secretary Parker know. Proper meeting decorum is expected of all participating in the meeting, and anyone who fails to act properly may be removed from the meeting. The city reserves the right to discontinue a meeting if any improper behavior occurs, which prevents the uninterrupted conduct of business. The format for this evening's meeting is as follows. The applicant will make the opening statement explaining the proposal. The applicant will be given 15 minutes to present their case, which includes the applicant, consultants, and other members of the applicant's team. Members of the board will then address any questions they may have to the applicant. Any persons wishing to speak in favor will be recognized and allowed to do so at that time. Then those persons in opposition will be recognized to make their statements and ask questions, with, with each member of the public being given 5 minutes to express their opinions. Time may not be shared between speakers. A speaker's time may be extended in 5 minute intervals by a 2/3 majority vote of the board. The applicant will then answer questions and make a closing statement. The public hearing portion of the meeting will be closed, and the public will only be allowed to address the board if a question is directed to them. The staff will make their recommendation, and the board will discuss the application and make their decision with a brief statement of the reason for the motion preceding the making of the motion. Motions to approve shall include the staff stipulations unless otherwise stated in the motion. Our first appeal tonight is number 2383, Blair Thettinger with First Seed Farm for property at 457 Shawnee Road. Does any member of the board have any contact to disclose with regard to this case?
No.
No.
Okay, let's see here. Janet, do you have me listed as the host? Because I'm not able to call on anyone.
You're good now.
All right, thank you. Okay, I see Mr. and Ms. Thettinger in the audience. So if you please start off by giving us your name and address, tell us about your project here.
My name is Blair Thettinger. My home address is 448 Shawnee Road. The property in question is across the street at 457 Shawnee Road. It's an empty lot that I recently purchased right across the street from my house. I'm an avid vegetable gardener, and I've cleared some of the underbrush, and I would like to have a vegetable garden across the street. My reading of the city code on fencing said that you can have a 6-foot fence along the sides and the back of a property, but only a 4-foot fence in the front. And I'm not sure I was reading it right, but that's what I thought. And so I applied to have a 6-foot fence all the way around because there's a lot of deer. There's a lot of forest and deer in my neighborhood. And if I'm going to have a garden, I want to make sure that deer can't get into it. So I know that it looks like a lot of woods in those pictures, but we've cleared out a lot of that underbrush. And I'm ready to, oh, there you go. It's a newer picture. I'm ready to get things prepared to have a garden there next spring.
Okay. Are there any questions for the applicant? Commissioner Miller? Are you playing with your camera or are you raising your hand? Commissioner Miller?
I'm sorry, I hit the wrong button.
Okay. Mr. Connolly?
Yeah, I just want to thank the applicant for reading the policy before he built the fence. So I think that's very adamant of him. So that's all I want to say.
Thank you. Commissioner Ernst?
Thank you, sir.
Actually, I was going to say exactly the same thing Mr. Connolly just said. Thank you for reading it and thanking for applying for a variance.
Okay. Seeing no other questions, I will open up the public comment. Is there anyone in the audience that wants to speak in favor of or in opposition to this request? Okay, I see a gentleman that would like to speak. Sir, can you go ahead and give us your name and address, please?
Hi, this is Jay Jaddick. I live at 444 Shawnee Road. And I am in favor of Blair's fence. I like the idea of having a garden in the neighborhood. I've actually seen Blair's other smaller garden, and it's a really nice garden and it's well kept. And Blair has been nice enough to even share vegetables with us. It's just a nice presence to have the garden in the neighborhood. And I see him as a responsible homeowner and gardener, and I could really see this being a nice part of the neighborhood. So I'm in favor.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else in the audience that wants to speak in favor of or in opposition to this request? Okay, seeing none, we'll close the public portion of the meeting. We'll get staff comment.
Thank you, Commissioner Carson. This is Gunnar Hand, Director of Planning. The standard practice for a vacant parcel, and because there is no primary structure or accessory structure, we usually only allow a 4-foot fence around the entire perimeter, whether it's the front, side, or rear yard. So this variance is technically for 6 feet for the entire circumference, so long as there is it's still a vacant parcel. The applicant had confirmed in their application materials and some back and forth with staff that this would not be for commercial use or sale, either on or off site of the property. This is for personal consumption. As you may have just heard, he'll probably hand some additional produce around to his neighbors, which is fine, but again, not for commercial use. We did have a phone call late last week of a neighbor who wanted to remain anonymous that was in opposition. So I guess that would leave us with 1 opposition and 1 in favor tonight. I would also mention that the conditions as applied do mention a couple of things. One is no storage of materials on the site, so there's not going to be a shed or other things that'll be stored within this garden. I'm assuming those will happen on his property, and he'll bring those supplies over as needed. And then secondly, we sort of add a couple conditions just to clarify that there will be, depending on how much earth is moved or land is cleared, although it seems like he did do some land clearance already, without the quantities or size, or we don't exactly know how much was cleared. So in the future, moving forward, there might be a need for a land disturbance permit, a grading permit, and or a building permit if they decide to build on this property in the future, whether it's an accessory structure or not. The other thing we would mention is if an accessory structure is proposed in the future, that will require another variance, as there is no primary structure on the parcel. So we just kind of added some of that information in for the applicant for future reference.
Okay, thank you.
But we recommend
Questions?
approval.
Questions for staff? I'll start with Commissioner Connolly. Go ahead and unmute Commissioner Connolly.
I guess the person that was in opposition, is there anything information on in our staff report about that person?
No, that phone call came in late after we submitted everything on Friday. It came in at the end of day Friday, and it was just an anonymous phone call that said that they opposed the fence height.
So are we verifying that they're actually a neighbor, or hadn't been verified, or what?
It was anonymous.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Let's go to Assistant Parker.
Hold on,
Probably
let me finish.
Well, I'm going to see if I
Can
can
you
get you an
answer
answer
my
your question.
I
Yeah.
can answer the question.
That's what I'm trying to get you.
Actually, it was an email, and the gentleman, I sent him a copy of the staff report so that he could read through it, and then I did not hear anything else from him.
So we don't know where he lived at, actually.
I don't think so. No, I don't think there was not any address on.
All right,
his,
thanks.
Okay, Commissioner Jones.
Commissioner Connolly asked the same question that I was going to ask in terms of, are we aware? Mine was a little bit different in terms of what the opposition was based on, but I guess we don't know that, do we? Or do we?
Janet.
No, I do not know. He just he asked about the sign that was posted in the yard, and like I said, I sent him the final staff report, and since I didn't hear anything back from him, I'm really assuming that answered his questions.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Paula, you had your hand up before. Did your question get answered? All right, thank you. Anything else for staff? Seeing none, I'll stand for a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
A motion to approve by Commissioner Connolly, seconded by Commissioner Jones. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Armstrong,
Aye.
Conley,
Aye.
Ernst,
Aye.
Yui,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Polly.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, that motion to approve this appeal, subject to the staff's comments and suggestions, passes 7 in favor and none opposed.
Thank you. I do want to make an additional comment to all those in attendance that Commissioner Joanne Huey is also on the call. I omitted her name during the introductions. I apologize for that, but she is on the call.
Our next appeal.
Can I vote on that one?
Can you
I'm
vote
sorry,
on?
I didn't know that you had joined us.
I was late, excuse me.
Yes,
That's
and
all right.
Commissioner Mueller. Thank you.
Yes, aye.
Okay,
Okay, the gang's all here.
that changes the vote to 8 in favor and none opposed.
Thank you.
And that takes us to our next appeal, which is number 2387, Derek Van with Alter Support Incorporated for property at 9151 Parallel Parkway. Does any member of the board have any contact disclosed with regard to this application?
No.
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 Mr. Van, are you in the audience? Mr. Van.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
Ladina Washington is actually going to be the operator, and she is on the call.
Okay, Ms. Washington, can you please raise your hand so I can recognize you? Okay, Ms. Washington, go ahead and unmute yourself. And if you go ahead and give us your name and address, please, for the record, tell us about your project and your request. Ms. Washington? Mr. Van or Ms. Washington, I need you to unmute and please tell us about your project and your request. Okay, Jana, let's move this to the end of the agenda and let's go ahead and move on so we're not holding people up.
Okay. Our next appeal is number 2390, the Unified Government of Wyandotte County, Kansas City, Kansas, for property at 75 South 23rd Street. Does any member of the board have any contact to disclose with regard to this appeal?
No.
And I do believe Logan's on the call with us.
Okay. Okay. Go ahead and give us your name and address, please, and tell us about your project.
Hi, my name is Logan Messentine. My address is 250 North 32nd Street, and I'm a Unified Government employee. I coordinate the SOAR program, which is a neighborhood revitalization program. And we are working on a collaborative project. We're calling it Stories on Stories. And there's quite a bit of background here, but it's through the CHIP, the Community Health Improvement Plan, the violence prevention piece. And we are collaborating with a lot of different partners, but mainly MOXA, the Metropolitan Organization to Counter Sexual Assault, and the Wyandotte Behavioral Health Network is where our volunteer artist, Tiffany Friesen, is. And as well as SOAR, Parks and Rec, and a lot of other collaborative partners. So the project here, the idea of Stories on Stories, is to install resident-driven art onto the boards of vacant buildings using a wheat pasting technique. And the idea is to engage the community, connect the community, and then install art driven from the community onto the building. These are proven to make a space safer by connecting the community, engaging residents, as well as bringing attention to the space based on SEPTED principles. So that's Stories on Stories as a base. But then this project takes it one step further. We presented Stories on Stories and our proposed project location of Clifton Park to Standing Committee on June 1st. And they encouraged us to think outside the box and go even bigger. So we decided to partner with Habitat for Humanity and some other great folks and make this even bigger and try to install a more permanent mural on the structure in addition to just the wheat paste on the boards. We are also going to be painting the building. We're going to be, our Habitat volunteers are going to be helping us paint the shelter. We're going to do some landscaping and cleanup, paint over some graffiti and things like that. So there's a lot to this project, but the mural piece in particular, very much we want to be resident driven. So we've done a lot of engagement this summer. COVID made it very challenging. We were originally planning on knocking on doors, but rather we put up door hangers and used a lot of social media, neighborhood groups, newsletters, that sort of thing to get a survey out for what sort of art the neighbors would like to see. And now our artist is working on putting together those ideas. We are trying to solicit actual art submissions. That one's been a little more challenging, but we've partnered with KCKCC and some other local artists to try and really make this as resident driven as possible and something that the community wants to see.
Okay, great. Thank you. Any questions for the applicant? Commissioner Jones?
My question is, what was the rate of response with the door hangers and the communication with the residents?
I mean, we would have loved to have received more. I think 60 responses was actually pretty great, all things considered. But obviously, we solicited mostly the 66102 zip code, but because of social media and things, it went larger than that too. So with as many residents as we have in Wyandotte, it definitely could have been more. And then, like I said, we did really hope to receive actual art submissions from residents, and that never really came to be. So, you know, it's always challenging to get the feedback. That part's the hardest.
And so my follow-up question is, you said 60, that's 60 out of like how many door hangers were hung?
I believe we hung around 200 door hangers. I'm not
Okay.
entirely sure.
Okay, and then my crossover question would be, so the community that had an opportunity to either speak at the public hearing tonight for or against, was the audience the same?
We haven't got to that. We haven't got to them yet.
No, I mean in terms of who the notifications went out to.
Okay.
Oh, yes. So the letters that we sent to the residents in the surrounding area, those are the
Correct.
same folks that got the door hanger, and our engagement probably even went above and beyond that.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that I know you said that, but I just wanted to know through data or example whether or not the residents did get an opportunity to speak toward that. I think the collaboration is a wonderful thing, but just wanted to clarify that point. Thank you.
Yes, and to that, we are also planning once the artist finalizes things, to get more feedback. So we're hoping, similar to the sign that the planning department put by the building, we'd like to put a sign like that to solicit more feedback once our art is closer to being final. And then we would like to work with the NBR, CABA, as well as WCAC, the neighborhood group, and probably Commissioner Johnson to try and get some more direct feedback from residents in that area as well.
Thank you. And I just had one more really quick question. You mentioned that there was evidence that this could help with crime and different things. What's another property that you used as an example that's similarly situated that has a mural that leads you to believe that this is going to lead to the improvement that you seek?
That's a great question. I don't have a specific example for this project yet because this is really our big push for this. We did do a pilot in the Rosedale neighborhood last summer, but it was just one building, so I don't think we'd have a lot of data to back that up yet. But this comes from the broad concepts of crime prevention through environmental design and graffiti prevention in general, things of that nature. It also comes from an artist that did this technique in another city, and Tiffany could speak to that more if she's here. But the concept is that when you have neighbors talk to one another, discuss how they feel, what their perception of safety is, that is one thing all on its own. And then the art itself, especially if it involves people, if people see other people on a space, even if it's just art, there are studies that show that it is there are less likely to be violent crimes happening there. I'm sorry, I don't have the actual research in front of me right now.
No worries. I still appreciate your response. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Connolly. Commissioner Connolly? Still can't hear you, sir. I can see you, Commissioner Connolly, and I'm calling on you. I just need you to unmute your mic.
It's not working.
There you are.
Oh, okay. All right. I guess the question is, now you don't know what the mural looked like because you hadn't chosen an artist. Is that what you're saying?
It's slightly more complex than that. We have an artist that is guiding all of this work, but her vision is to make it a very collaborative piece, as well as incorporate photographs, if that's what the residents desire. So we have some historic photographs of the building. I believe that was on one of the slides. We would really love to see photographs of the residents or things of that nature. We have not been able to get those yet, which COVID makes it even more challenging. But this artist is willing to work with other local artists, and we have gotten some feedback from some other local artists willing to help, as well as she has children or youth in her program at the Wyandotte Behavioral Health Network that have provided some really interesting art too. So it would really be, the entire building would kind of be a cohesive piece. And we're really looking at, categories like connectiveness, community, inclusivity, things like that. But no, we do not have the final art drafted yet, as we're still trying to solicit feedback.
Okay. I mean, it's a mural on, I want to say 8th and Quindaro that was drawn back in the 90s on the wall. And it's a lot in Kansas City, Missouri. Yeah, I don't know if it defers the crime aspect. Now you said you're using chip funds. Is that what you said?
Yeah, it's a little complicated, but essentially piece of it does come through that, because MOXA is the lead partner for the violence prevention portion of the CHIP, and they do use some grant funding. So that's where we're getting our money for supplies and the door hangers and some small funds like that.
So is there a lot of crime in that area?
This is probably a middle range neighborhood. The reason we chose it, our vision was to do this in neighborhoods with higher rates of violent crime, but this project itself has a lot of other strings tied to it. So we actually chose this building because the UG owns it, and it's a historic building in a park that's been boarded and vacant for years. And we really think that doing an art piece and bringing the neighborhood together on this building in particular would have an impact. And that's more why we chose it than crime.
All right, thank you.
Commissioner Mueller.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have a mural at approximately 40th, 41st and Mission Road. And it was on a foundation wall, and I drive by it daily, and it's much more pleasant to drive by something colorful and a little piece of art than it is a plain wall.
Thank you. Commissioner Jones, did you have a follow-up to the questions you had already asked?
So Logan, I just wanted to know then, from your perspective, then it sounds like we can look forward to seeing more of these projects on the docket when I heard you say other properties are being considered based on crime rates.
Yes, It's a little complicated with all the processes because the other Stories on Stories at its base, as I explained in the beginning, is really just the boards on the vacant buildings. Whereas this, since the UG owns it, and we got a lot of feedback to do more, that's why we're looking at a mural in addition. But yeah, I think this is a great pilot, and if this opportunity presents itself in other neighborhoods, we'll definitely look into it.
I think one last question. So just so this body is aware, then who will be making the decisions going forward with regard to what properties are selected for this project, especially if it's successful and becomes in more demand?
Yeah, that's a great question. So as I said, the collaboration piece, there's a lot to it. So the coalition that is actually kind of backing this project specifically is called WYCOSAP, Wyandotte County Sexual Assault Prevention, I believe is what it stands for. And that's the group that we are working with through MOXA in the CHIP on this violence prevention piece, particularly as it relates to projects and CPTED principles, crime prevention through environmental design. So that is the committee that is really looking at these more in detail. And then the smaller group from that would even be myself, some staff in Parks and Rec, some more SOAR staff, as well as our friends at MOXA and our artists at Wyandotte Behavioral Health.
All right, thank you, Logan. I'm going to go ahead and open up the public portion of the meeting, and I have 3 hands up. I'm going to start with Connie's Galaxy S9. So, Connie, would you please go ahead and give us your name and address, please?
Hi, my name is Connie Worrell, and I live at 72 South 23rd Street, and I'm directly kind of cat-a-corner from this building. I've been here for about 15 years. So my concern with the project is it going to be politically neutral? Are we gonna, kind of, what I'm trying to figure out is I've got, boys that live with me, and we know that there's a lot of stuff politically going on throughout the country. And I just wanted to make sure that it's truly going to be community-based and not given political messages.
All right, we'll get you an answer to that question. Is that the only one you had?
There's that, and being here as long as I have, just up until a couple of weeks ago, we had somebody firing gunshots off on the corner, and their vehicle projected off the street and into the park. We do have just random shooting off and on. As far as violent crimes go, I can't mention any. Paul Soptic from WCAC could probably fill you in on that. But I just want to know, like I said, is it going to be something that I'm going to drive by every day and be proud of, or am I going to have politics shoved down my throat every day? That's all I wanted to know.
Okay, so you're not speaking in favor of or in opposition to, you just have a couple questions.
I have a couple of questions. Right now, I'm opposing it.
All right, thank you. Next, I have Tiffany Friesen. Tiffany Friesen.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Hi, so I am the.
I need your name and address, please, for the record.
Tiffany Friesen, and I am not a resident. I'm actually the artist who's working on this. So I live on state line. I don't know if that. I live in Missouri, barely, but I work for Wyandotte Behavioral Health Network, and that's how I'm involved with this project.
Okay. Did you want to make a comment?
Yeah, well, I wanted to. I didn't know how I was able to speak, but I wanted to kind of address some of these things and answer, also to support Logan, especially around the political messaging and just some of the questions around the process of the art and where the art is coming from.
Well, go ahead then, please. You've got the floor.
So we have a lot of art that we've been collecting. The majority of it is made by children who live near the house or in the basic area of the Clifton Park area. And the messaging is not in any way political. In fact, it's really hopeful. It's messages like, you belong here, we care about you, You deserve to feel safe. Dream big, and it has pictures of children. And whenever I asked the kids specifically what they wanted to see, I said, imagine going to a park and feeling like you belonged, you were safe, you were included, and what kind of messaging would you want to see? And then also I would like to share that all of the content that we are putting on the house or on the Clifton Park building was content directed and received by the residents and the people on those surveys. And what we got overwhelmingly was wanting to see kids art from people who lived in the area, local artists, in addition to historical photos and pictures of photos of people who live in the neighborhood. And so, Connie, I would love to talk to you more about what you would like to see, because we really want to make this what is meaningful for you all. And even though I'm the artist on the project, none of my art is going up. I'm really just coordinating the art that we are receiving in. And we are accountable to those surveys and the input that we're getting from the community. I also want you all to know that the process we're using is called wheat pasting. And if it is to get tagged, which sometimes happens whenever we put up new murals, it's really easy to repair and cost effective as well. So we have a plan as well for not just getting the art up there, but also maintaining it and making sure it continues to look good.
All right, thank you, Tiffany. Commissioner Connolly, did you have a question or response? Commissioner Connolly?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Tiffany, can you hear me?
Yes.
She can?
Yes, go ahead.
Can you hear me, Tiffany? She's not answering.
She's on the call, Commissioner Connolly. What's your question?
I said she can't hear. I need to know if she can hear me.
She's right here. She's unmuted. Tiffany, please speak up. Mr. Connolly, go ahead and ask your question.
Okay. So my question is, would you have a problem with showing a design before you put it on the side of the building, so the residents can, like Connie, could see what it looked like?
Absolutely not. In fact, our plan is I'm in the process of putting together some of this art. It's a lot of digital, combining the kids' art with the historical photos, with the photos that we have. There still is room to submit more art. So if Connie or other residents wanted to submit more, they could. But we are going to have a sign posted in front of the Clifton Park building with a few photos that we are suggesting of what the art would look like. And we also have a feedback loop to be able to receive input from neighbors. Like, we want the neighborhood to want this messaging, and we want it to be chosen by them. And we are trying to give the neighborhood as many opportunities as possible to give us their input all along the way. We asked what they wanted in the beginning. We've checked in along the way, and before anything goes up, it'll be posted in front of the building with the way to contact us. So we want to be accountable to the neighborhood. That's the whole point of this project.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to go back to the audience, and I'm going to allow Paul to speak. Paul, give us your name and address, please. Paul.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. My name is Paul Soptic. I live at 65 South 24th Street, Kansas City, Kansas. And the picture that we're seeing on the screen now is the old swimming pool when the whole park was a pool. And the underneath building is the present building. What it doesn't show is the old in-ground swimming pool that I used to swim in, oh good Lord, 70 years ago. Anyway, I've been around for a long time. I used to ride the trolley from my mom and dad's place to my grandma's place where we live today, put my swimming trunks on and go swimming all day long over here at Clifton Park. So I've been around a while. Unfortunately, there aren't that many photos of the area, the old photos of the area. I like the one with the canoe out in the middle of the old pool.
Mr. Soptic, can I interrupt you for a second? Are you speaking in favor of this project, or?
Well, I would like to make some comments, and there's a lot of questions that I have. I guess you can't, I don't know if you can see me or not.
No, I cannot.
Okay, I don't know how to, this is only my second Zoom meeting. I'm sorry.
That's okay. If you have questions, though, just let me know and we'll try to get you some answers.
Okay. We have the roof, the soffits, and the fascias are in really bad shape. Some years ago, WCAC tried to buy this building from the UG and said that we couldn't because there was too much black mold and asbestos in it. That's one issue that we have going on. So I guess I'm wondering about the structure, the roof, the soffits, the fascia. Are they going to be repaired before this project is started?
Okay.
That would be one question that I have, because I'd hate like hell to put heck to put on a bunch of murals and have the building collapse.
Okay, we'll get you an answer to that. What else do you have?
The second thing, of course, is the amount of graffiti we have on the building. I don't know if you've gotten current pictures, but we have the whole north side of the building that's been graffitied. It hasn't been taken off. The city's graffiti abatement team doesn't do the second floor of any graffiti, so this has stayed up there for a couple of weeks now. And without me taking a ladder over there and painting it over, it'll probably stay there. But we have been hit tremendously in this area by graffiti, mainly from the SPV sect of the gangs in the area. And this building here gets hit by graffiti many times. So I guess my question is the structure, and if it's going to be able to stand for any length of time after we put the pictures on. And the second thing is the doors, the windows, the stone walls, are they going to be taken care of too? Because the stone walls, basically, they get graffitied quite a bit. So if we're going to put the mural on the back side, or basically the east side of the building, we have the south side and the front entrance, or the west side, that's all stone. So I guess my question is, are we putting lipstick on a pig, or are we just what are we covering up, and what type of story is it going to tell on a structure that isn't really up to par?
Okay, we'll try to get you some answers to those questions. Thank you.
So those are some of the things that we got. The political aspect of it too, I would hate to see that happen. I would like to see some history, being I've been around since God was a little boy. I would like to see the history put on this building rather than new art.
I think there's going to be a forum for that, Mr. Soptic. Unfortunately, we're not here tonight to design the mural and things. What we're trying to do is approve the concept. There's going to be things that are going to be put into place, but I do have your questions down about repairs to the structure through graffiti and the stone walls and the windows. Is there anything else that you'd like for me to get clarification on?
Right now, that's about it. I would hope if this thing goes forward, we would be able to see the art before it actually goes up.
All right, we'll get you some answers to those questions. Thank you, sir. I'm going to now call on Jessica Bowling. Jessica Bowling. Jessica. Jessica Bowling, I've got you unmuted. Can you go ahead and give us your name and address, please? Okay, she's either stepped away. I'm going to go ahead and close the public portion of the meeting. I want to go back to the applicant, Tiffany. I'm sorry. Yes. Excuse me, Logan. If you could please unmute yourself, and if you could address some of the questions that were asked tonight about again, I think Tiffany gave us some answers regarding the politically neutral aspect of the mural. And then if you could speak to repairs to the structure, the existing graffiti, the stone walls, and any type of windows, I guess the structure itself, and how that's going to be dealt with being able to do this.
Yes, thank you. So thank you, Connie and Paul, for your input. And I'll just echo what Tiffany said. We absolutely want the neighbors to love this and want this. And we do plan on having some drafts of the art go up for approval before we put anything up. So we definitely want that feedback. And then to address some of the other concerns. So when we decided to think outside the box on this, it became a lot more complex than it started. So we decided to partner with Habitat for Humanity. As you can see in the photo, the paint is chipping badly, in addition to the things that Paul mentioned. So we thought we could at least try and paint the building. So we were actually able to get a donation from Sherwin-Williams, and Habitat did a lead inspection on the exterior of the building to make sure that we could paint over that. Thankfully, it was lead free. So we will be repainting the building. However, that does not address the stone, the roof, the soffits, the fascia. So unfortunately, we did not get that far. We're trying to keep this a low cost project. And I definitely understand, the whole lipstick on a pig metaphor. I think in some ways, this project, we're trying to bring beauty to a vacant building. So vacant buildings usually aren't in the best of shape, and they're usually not vacant, hopefully, for very long. This one is a bit of an outlier. It's been vacant for a long time, but most of our buildings only stay vacant a year or so, hopefully less. So this project is also temporary in nature. We don't want to spend a lot of work on art that only stays up for 2 months, but ideally it wouldn't stay up longer than a year or two anyway, because we would really like these buildings, something to happen to them. And bringing attention to them might even help make that happen. For the doors and the windows, we are actually reboarding those when we install the art. So those will be nice and clean and well boarded. And the graffiti issue, unfortunately with the stone, I don't know if we can do as much, but the concept actually is really great for graffiti prevention and abatement, because if someone graffitis one of the boards or one of the mural pieces that are wheat pasted, we can really easily and low cost print off the section that was vandalized and re-wheat paste it. And we also have a process in mind to keep an eye on these properties that we install on as well. So we'll be working with our code enforcement team and one another to make sure that if anything happens to the art, someone knows about it and we can get out there and fix it.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to go ahead and call on Commissioner Jones before I go to staff comment.
So, Logan, when you say you'd like to see something happen to the building within 1 to 2 years, you mean something other than demolition?
Well, I suppose this building, yeah, I think this building is historic and we would love for it to be restored, not demolished. But I'm not an expert in that field, and I realize it's quite a costly repair. But as a broad concept, this project, I think usually, yes, we wouldn't be looking at a demolition because those would probably be moving quicker, but something more along the lines of a rehab. So if there's a vacant building somewhere and we put all this art on it, then maybe a developer would be more willing to purchase it and fix it up. That's kind of the hope.
Okay, that answer your question, Commissioner Jones?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close the public portion of the meeting. I want to get staff comment. For those of you that are on the Zoom conference, Mr. Connolly, I see your hand up. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I guess, Logan, so you saying that this building is owned by the city?
Yes, sir.
And so the city can't get the graffiti and fix the soffits?
So the issue with this building, I don't know a lot of detail, but I know that it is historic. So we don't want to demolish it, and it's a really cool, unique building that could be really a great community asset. But as Paul mentioned earlier, it's full of asbestos and black mold, and we do not have the funds. We haven't had the funds for years to fix it. That's my understanding.
So should we work, because the asbestos is there, should we worry about somebody getting into the building, like kids or something playing or whatever kids do, getting in there with that asbestos? Shouldn't we fence it off?
Well, that's a great question and concern, and that's why we have a really strict boarding process. So the boards on the doors and the windows, they're already boarded securely, and we make sure that those are secure so no one can get inside, but we will actually be reboarding them as part of this project as well, so it will be even better.
All right, thank you.
I'm going to close the public portion of the meeting, and we're going to go to get staff comment. For those of you that are on the Zoom call for the Planning and Zoning Commission, I deeply apologize to you. We still have 3 more cases on the Board of Zoning Appeals before we will even convene that meeting. So hopefully things, the pace will pick up in shortly, but we will get to that very soon. So I'm going to go to Gunnar Hand, Director of Urban Planning and Land Use, for comments on this case.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just for clarification, because there's a lot of conversations, this variance request is for 3 parts of the zoning code. So essentially, if approved, the Board of Zoning Appeals is allowing these murals both in a residential zone, adjacent to a residential zone, and on all sides of the building, as was described by the applicant and the lead artist coordinating the effort. Again, this is mostly just a wheat paste process, but it is just paint. I think part of what I heard during the conversation was this idea of the broken window theory. You keep the broken windows fixed, it keeps the neighborhood sort of cleaner, safer, and more livable. And so I think that's sort of the thinking about this moving forward. If approved, they will be required to go through our sign permit process, which is an administrative process. And I would like to note that the sign code does not restrict our First Amendment rights to freedom of speech. And there are stipulations specifically in there in terms of not allowing advertisements. So that is something we'll look at if approved. This process the design will not only go through a process with the public to select an artist in different pieces, but the sign permit itself will get reviewed to our sign code as well. But we recommend approval.
Thank you. Questions for staff? Seeing none, I'll stand for a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve made by Commissioner Huey, seconded by Commissioner Jones. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Armstrong,
Aye.
Conley,
Aye.
Ernst,
Commissioner Ernst.
I'm gonna try it again. Aye.
Thank you.
Huey,
Aye.
Jones, Commissioner Jones,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Moeller,
Aye.
Pauly.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, that motion to approve this appeal with the stipulations and conditions in the staff report passes. 8 in favor and none opposed.
Thank you.
Our next appeal is number 2391, Teresa Hernandez, for property at 840 Shawnee Road. Does any member of the board have any contact to disclose with regard to this case?
No.
No.
Thank you.
Ms. Hernandez, are you in the audience? Ms. Hernandez, go ahead and unmute yourself and give us your name and address, please, for the record, and tell us about your request. Teresa Hernandez. Ms. Hernandez, go ahead and unmute yourself, please, and give us your name and address. One more time, Ms. Hernandez. Okay, Janet, go ahead and call the next case, and we'll come back to this one.
Our next appeal is number 2393, Matt Schlick, with Engineering Solutions for property at 3115 South 18th Street. Does any member of the board have any contact to disclose with regard to this case?
No.
No. Mr. Schlick, are you in the audience? Please raise your hand. Matt Schlick. Matt Schlick.
Commissioner
Okay,
Carson.
I've got Tyler Edwards on the.
Yep.
Mr. Edwards.
Yep, Tyler Edwards with Menards here.
Okay, go ahead and tell us about your request.
Sure. Menards is looking at another Kansas City store. This one's on I-35 in Row. Very similar to the existing store on 98th Street. Same prototype. Just like that project, we are requesting a variance to reduce the number of required parking stalls. A lot of that has to do with Menards traffic being split differently than other retailers. We have a lot of contractors that shop in the day and then homeowners that shop at night. So across the country, almost every Menards store has right around 400 to 420 parking stalls. Some go a lot lower, some go to 350, but 400 is really that sweet spot where we can handle all the traffic on the busiest days. So that's why we're requesting that reduction. And then we're requesting another variance for the height of the fence that surrounds the lumber yard. We have a 14-foot tall steel racking system that surrounds the entire lumber yard. This helps us store bulky building materials. On the back side of that racking system is a solid wood fence. Now we have the fence for security from the exterior. Make sure no one's coming in and out that's not supposed to, kind of a theft deterrent and safety mechanism. And it's also a good screening because we do store materials in there. And the outside of the fence looks better than, a pallets of block or PVC. So it's kind of a nice aesthetic difference from the storage racking. And that's why we, all of our stores have that 14-foot tall fence. It's just like the 98th Street store. This one will look pretty similar to that. So I think those are two fairly simple requests since we kind of already have a store that has those features in it. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay, questions for Mr. Edwards? Okay, I'm not seeing any. I'm going to go ahead and open up the public portion of the meeting. Anyone in the audience wants to speak in favor of or in opposition to this request? Please raise your hand. I see a Joanne.
Hello.
Yes.
I'm Joanne Hansen. We own the property that Menards is buying.
Okay. Could you give us your address, please, for the record?
It's 530 Terrace Trail East, Lake Quivira, Kansas,
Thank you.
66217. We are thrilled that Menards is interested in this property. It's been sitting vacant for a very long time. We've had two other developments that were proposed on this property. And the last one was in 2009. So I think this is going to bring a lot of revenue to the city, and it's going to definitely dress up that corner.
Okay, thank you very much. Anyone else want to speak in favor of or in opposition to this request? Seeing none, I will close the public portion of the meeting and get staff comment.
You should put me back on mute.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is Gunnar Hand, Director of Planning and Urban Design. Again, just a reminder, this is 2 variances, which will require 2 motions and 2 votes. The first one regarding parking, the applicant mentioned the other location. I will note that that location had 412 parking spots approved, so it also got a fairly significant variance. Currently, the way that our zoning code does parking in an M2 zone, the parking requirement based on the square footage of the building is around 836 spaces. So they're essentially asking for a variance of 432 spaces. We did, just for everyone's reference, we did a calculation of the same use using our new zoning code, which has yet to be adopted, but we hope to have adopted by the end of this calendar year. That parking requirement would put this use at around 418. So just to give everybody a little sense about what's going on, the code requires more parking than is necessary. We are significantly overparked across the county on all uses, specifically uses like this. So this variance, while it sounds large, is actually kind of pretty close to being on par with where we're at. These 2 variances are associated with a plan review that is not on the docket tonight. We pushed that plan review because it needed a little bit more work to our October agenda. Menards is effectively waiting to hear how we move forward on these variances to continue the work on that plan review. Typically, we like to see the variances in the BOZA and then the plan reviews in the Planning Commission directly following it. But we still had some outstanding issues for that plan review that need to move forward. One of those outstanding issues is the parking lot has yet to been designed to our commercial design guidelines. So what we ended up doing as a part of our conditions of approval was actually giving them more than what the current just by calculation variance would be. We essentially gave them another 21 spaces because as you follow the design guidelines, you add a few islands, you add some landscaping, you add some sidewalks in there, and we believe it'll further reduce. So to allow the flexibility, we're actually requesting a reduction of 453 spaces of that 836 required, leaving them at 383. So if they come in anywhere above that when we do the final design, great, but we believe that's enough flexibility so that they won't request more of a variance and have to come back in the following subsequent months. So on that one specifically, again, we condition it, let me just get to we condition it to, we recommend approval and we condition it so long as they follow the commercial design guidelines moving forward. On the second variance request for the fence height, in an M2 zone, you're allowed an 8-foot tall fence. They're essentially asking for a 14-foot wall. A variance requires you to basically exhaust all other options before requesting that variance. In the staff report, we note that there is a potential option, additional option, but this is the path the applicant chose to move forward with. I would note that this fence does sit on top of an existing retaining wall because if you're familiar with the site, there's a lot of topography. That retaining wall goes anywhere from 15 to 60 feet and then another 14 feet on top of that. So we are technically recommending denial of the fence height simply because it did not exhaust all the options as laid out by the zoning code. So they mentioned security, there's other ways to secure it. And so with that, we leave it to the applicant and they stated their case on why they requested that variance, but those are our 2 recommendations.
Questions for staff?
Yes, I have a question. So Director Hand, what you said about variance number 2 though, they should exhaust other options. Did you had back and forth dialogue with the applicant about that and they're aware that they should have pursued exhausted other options?
They just don't meet the criteria set out by the zoning code. So we essentially had to recommend denial in this situation. The applicant we did have a back and forth with the applicant. They understood why we were recommending denial. The point that I believe was made earlier and they made on the phone was this variance was granted at their other location on 98th Street. So there has been a precedent set by this board specific to Menards and specific to this variance for their same fence. They have the same 14-foot fence at every Menards.
So, Director Hand, my follow-up question would be, since there is another example to go by and precedent that's been set, are you aware of any concerns that have been presented by the other variance that was given to the other store?
No, none.
Thank you.
Additional questions for staff? Seeing none, I'll stand for a motion. First motion will be on variance number 1, which is the parking variance. Commissioner
Make a
Miller.
motion to approve.
Motion made by Commissioner Mueller, but Commissioner Miller, did you have a comment?
No, I was raising my hand to make the motion, so I'll
Okay,
second Muller's motion.
All right, motion made by Commissioner Mueller for approval of the parking variance, seconded by Commissioner Miller. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Armstrong,
Aye.
Conley,
Aye.
Ernst,
Aye.
Ewing,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Mueller,
Aye.
Pauly.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, that motion to approve the variance for the parking passes 8 in favor and none opposed.
Okay, thank you. I'll entertain a motion on the sign request.
Move to approve.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Armstrong. Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner, seconded by Commissioner Pauly. Any discussion on motion for approval?
Yes. Are we approving the denial or are we approving the approval?
The motion is for approval.
Okay. Thank you.
To approve the variance request.
Thank you, sir. Excuse me.
Okay, roll call on motion for approval. Oh, excuse me, Commissioner Connolly.
You said something about a sign. I thought it was a fence.
No, it's
a fence.
I'm sorry, it is the fence. Excuse me. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Misspoke. Sorry, motion for approval is on the sign variance request as noted in variance number 2 of your packet. It's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Armstrong,
Aye.
Conley,
Connolly.
so,
I said, you keep saying sign. Is it the sign or the fence for
no,
the
it's
motion?
a fence.
The fence.
Oh, okay. All right.
It's variance number 2 in your packet. That's what I tried to clarify.
Oh, okay.
Is your vote
aye?
Thank you.
Ernst,
Aye.
Ewing,
No.
Jones,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Mueller,
Aye.
Pauly.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, that motion to approve the fence variance passes 7 in favor and 1 opposed.
Thank you. Janet, would you go ahead and call the cases that were missed?
Our first one is appeal number 2387, Derek Van with Alter Support Incorporated at 9151 Parallel Parkway.
And I did see Mr. Van in the audience.
Ladina Washington has her hand up.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Van or Ms. Washington, would you go ahead and please start us off? Give us your name and address. Tell us about your request.
Hello.
Yes, Mr. Van.
Hey, sir. How's it going? My name is Derek Van, 8520 Georgia Avenue, with Alter Support. Ladina Washington will be speaking on the behalf of Alter Support. I just want to just present my name out there and go ahead and turn it over to her.
Okay, Ms. Washington. Ms. Washington? Mr. Van, if we're going to hear this case, you better make it. Mr. Van? Mr. Van? Ms. Washington, I see your hand up. I see that you're not muted.
Mr. Chair, I can present it if need be.
At this point, we're going to need to do something. We need to move on, folks. So, Mr. Gunner, why don't you go ahead and present the case, and we'll see if there's any questions. Let's go.
Okay. Again, this is Gunnar Hand, Director of Planning and Urban Design for the Unified Government. This variance is associated with a daycare that will be on the Planning Commission hearing as well, off of Parallel Parkway. It is a case you all have heard before. Last year, BZA 2357 was for another variance for a parking requirement. Since that time, I should say, as a part of the approval of that, they were asked to follow the commercial design guidelines. We've been working with the applicant over the last couple of months on their site design and believe we got it to a place where we can move forward. A few months ago, they actually added a basement because of those site design changes, doubling their square footage, doubling their parking requirement. Essentially, everything that's going on in the basement is just storage. It's not more students or more classroom space. So it's the same amount of kids. It's the same amount of teachers as before, 11 staff members at its peak. Again, this is mostly pickup and drop off. We have very little concern as it relates to amount of parking and overflow parking. It does have a private street an existing private street that they will access off of. Part of our conditions of approval, and we do recommend approval of this variance, part of our conditions of approval, I'll just go through it real quick in terms of where we're at. Part of the condition of approval here is to add a sidewalk along Parallel Parkway and connect that along the private drive to the front of the building. This is a developing area of Parallel Parkway just east of I-435. You can see the site design here. Again, plenty of parking, ADA accessibility, and entrances. Essentially, we're asking them to add a sidewalk to be built along the width of the property and along Parallel Parkway. There was in the previous approval the south property line abuts a single-family neighborhood. That property owner of that single-family home had raised complaints about noise, and as part of this redesign, we were able to move, as just for chance, move that playground on the opposite side of the building, so we don't think there'll be any issues with the single-family neighborhood to the south in terms of noise. But as a part of that, we asked for some additional landscaping, both to shade and protect that playground area along that sidewalk that we asked to be developed. Again, I think moving forward, part of the conditions here are to, and here you can see the landscape plan. Again, we'll add some more trees over here around the playground area. It's an undeveloped piece of land. Again, there was some opposition, no support. But part of our conditions of approval, and I'm sorry, I'm getting feedback for some reason. Part of our conditions of approval here relate to continuing to follow up with those commercial design guidelines as this project moves forward into the development review committee when they get building permits. So with that, happy to take any questions, and we recommend approval.
All right, thank you. Ms. Washington, are you able to speak? Okay. Questions for Director Hand? Commissioner Miller?
Sorry, that was just, my hand was in front of my mute button.
Okay, Commissioner Jones.
Director Hand, just a comment so the record is correct. Under previous actions, the last sentence says that a special use permit basically was approved in December of 2020. I'm pretty sure it needs to be 2019. That's it.
That's correct. I apologize for that.
No problem.
We can take
Any
that
other
on the
any
way
other
to the work
questions for the
session.
director? Okay, seeing none, I will I will open this up to public comment. Is there anyone in the audience that wants to speak in favor of or in opposition to this request? The only hand I see up is Ms. Washington, which I'm not able to get her to speak. Anyone else? Ms. Washington? Okay, I'm not seeing any other hands to speak. We've already heard from staff. Is there any further questions for staff before I ask for a motion? All right, seeing none, I'll stand for that motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve made by Commissioner Jones, seconded by Commissioner Armstrong. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Armstrong,
Aye.
Conley,
Aye.
Ernst,
Aye.
Ewing,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Bowler,
Aye.
Polly.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, that motion to approve this appeal, subject to the staff's conditions, passes. 8 in favor and none opposed.
Thank you. Ms. Washington and Mr. Van, I would suggest that you call Secretary Parker in between this meeting and the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting to find out what's going on that we're not able to hear you. Mr. Van, we were able to hear you, and anyway, somehow you went away. But anyway, you might want to get that worked out before your case comes up in Planning and Zoning so we can talk to you about it. Thank you. Janet, would you call the final case for Planning and or Board of Zoning
Yes.
Appeals?
It's appeal number 2391, Teresa Hernandez at 840 Shawnee Road.
Ms. Hernandez, I see that you're here. Are you able to hear us?
Yes,
All right. Give us your name and address, please. Tell us what your project.
Teresa Hernandez, 840 Shawnee Road. I had an old greenhouse built in 1950, was falling down with the glass and all. I want to put a shed there. I still have my tiny horse that I have a 10-year permit for. I have to get about 8 to 10 bales of hay during the winter. And I have a lot of yard tools. I'm almost on an acre. And a lot take gasoline, which I cannot put in the house or in the basement. So I'm asking to build a really great shed to make the neighborhood look great.
Okay, any questions for the applicant? Okay, seeing none, I'll open up the public portion of the meeting. Anyone in the audience wants to speak in favor of or in opposition to this request? Okay, seeing none, I'll close the public portion of the meeting and go to staff for comment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is Gunnar Hand, Director of Planning and Urban Design. So from the satellite view and some of the other materials that were submitted, it actually looked like there were at some point 3 accessory structures to this primary structure. Upon a site visit, we were able to confirm that there is only 1 accessory structure. It's the existing shed that you can kind of see right here on this old plot plan. This plot plan was provided to us by the applicant. It was actually a plot plan that they had approved for a carport addition to the house. Essentially, this shed has been demolished and this old greenhouse has been demolished, and this is the location where they want to build this new shed. Through the back and forth with staff, we did inquire if they would be willing to consolidate both of those sheds into one larger shed. If you combine the area of both, it's still less than the maximum amount of square feet of a single accessory structure in this zone. But they wanted to keep it as 2 accessory structures. So that's why we're here with this variance requesting 2 accessory structures to a primary use in a single family neighborhood. We are recommending approval. We've seen no opposition or public support to date. The only conditions that we're asking is that the shed be built with the similar materials as the primary structure, as it is going to basically stand right next to it along Shawnee
Yes.
Drive. And then obviously a building permit as well.
Yes.
All right, any questions for the director? Seeing none, I'll stand for a motion.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve made by Commissioner Mueller, seconded by Commissioner Miller. Any discussion on motion for approval? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Armstrong,
Aye.
Conley,
Aye.
Ernst,
Aye.
Ewing,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Moeller,
Aye.
Polly. Mr. Chairman, that motion to approve this appeal with the staff conditions passes. 8 in favor and none opposed.
All right, thank you. And Janet, that does conclude our agenda for the Board of Zoning Appeals. Is that correct? I'm sorry, Commissioner Connolly? Commissioner Connolly?
I was looking at the, I guess from the training, we decided that we was gonna use the Robert Rules of Order. Is it something we gotta vote on?
Is that a question?
Yes, that's the question. Or did y'all vote on it?
Did we vote on whether or not we're going to use Robert Rules of Order?
Correct, because before it's been said that we wasn't using Robert Rules of Order. So is it something we're gonna start doing? Is it something we need to vote on? Is my question.
Director Hand, it's my understanding that we were always under the assumption of Robert's Rules of Order in running the meeting.
No, I've been told by the legal staff.
I think my question's for Director Hand, Mr. Connolly.
When we talked about it, Mr. Conley, when we talked about it, oh, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, sorry. When we talked about it at the retreat and training last month, so Robert's Rules and Order has a lot of ins and outs and is very sort of complicated, but there's sort of a layman's view of it, and that is what we follow. You can bring up any Robert Rules of Order moving forward, whether it's a point of clarification or point of order or what have you. But generally speaking, we're a relaxed Robert Rules of Order, so you can use it. We are operating under that system. We didn't review specifically Robert Rules of Order because it's like its own 100+ page book to review. But again, I think that the chair and the rest of the commission acknowledged that we would honor those rules moving forward, and we felt that we had been as well. So I think if there's a need for an update on what those are, we can set up another date to confirm that. But that would be its own. We all recognize that would be its own training in and of itself.
I'm going to go to legal counsel. Is there a need for a vote on this?
No, I think what I mentioned in the training was that we have our bylaws. To the extent that there are issues that come up regularly enough that we feel we want to incorporate them and take those from Robert's rules, the next time we update our bylaws, maybe we can incorporate some of those rules so that we have them handy and we don't have to reference Robert's rules next time we update those.
So, and for purposes of running the meetings the way we've been running them, are we okay, or do we need to make any type of adjustment?
No, we're fine.
All right, Commissioner Connolly.
Well, I guess I've been told a couple of times by staff and by council that we don't follow Robert's Rules of Order, and I've been on this board for a while. So I guess if there's no acknowledgement that we're going to start following the Robert's Rules of Order, then I think we need to vote as the board to follow Robert's Rules of Order or some kind of step down of the Robert's Rule of Order.
So we have our bylaws. There are also provisions in the Unified Government Code that relate to hearings. And if a situation is not covered by either our bylaws or the code, then we would look to Robert's rules.
Okay. So I guess my question is, so we're following what? Because I mean, if you're gonna follow Robert's Rule of Order, I mean, that should be something that is determined. Because I mean, I've mentioned that in a couple of meetings, and I've been told, oh, we don't follow Robert's Rule of Order. Then I've mentioned something else, and it says, oh, based off of Robert's Rules of Order, this is the way it's supposed to be done. So
I kind of see, right. I mean, I see it 3 different things. We have our bylaws, which control. If it's not covered in our bylaws, we go to the code, the Unified Government Code of Ordinances. If it's not covered in that, we look to Robert's Rules. So it is kind of the all-encompassing, kind of the catch-all. But you can opt out of Robert's Rules. You can create your own rules, and we've done that through our bylaws and in the code. And so it's kind of the catch-all. If a situation comes up and we don't see any provision for it that we've thought about, then yes, we can look at Robert's Rules.
All right, thank you.
Okay, Janet, that concludes our agenda. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, for everyone in attendance, we're going to take a 5-minute recess, and then when we come back, we will convene the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. I appreciate your patience during a very lengthy Board of Zoning Appeals meeting. We'll be back in 5 minutes. Thank you. Okay, everybody, 1 minute, please. Let's get started. Okay, I want to go ahead and welcome you all to the September 14th meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission. I appreciate your patience with us this evening through a very lengthy Board of Zoning Appeals meeting. I want to make a few introductions. First of all, my name is Jeff Carson. I'm the chairman of the Planning and Zoning Commission. Commissioner Karen Jones is also serving as the vice chair of the Planning and Zoning Commission. Director of Urban Planning and Land Use, Gunnar Hand, is on hand with us, along with Janet Parker and Byron Toy of the Department of Urban Planning and Land Use. Also, Patrick Waters of the Unified Government Legal Counsel. We have Tanjira and Sarah White with the Engineering and Public Works Department. We also have on hand with us tonight Commissioner James Ernst from the Planning Commission, Susanna Pauley, Commissioner Jake Miller, Commissioner Brandy Armstrong, Commissioner James Connolly, and Commissioner Joanne Huey, and Commissioner Mark Muller. Did I miss anyone? Okay, with that, I'm going to turn it over to Assistant Parker to read the opening statement.
We would like to welcome those present by telephone or Zoom to the meeting of the City Planning Commission. Due to the COVID-19 crisis, the members are participating remotely by Zoom webinar. Mr. Jeff Carson is serving as chairman this evening. Please note the following instructions for this meeting. If you are joining by Zoom video, please make sure you have an appropriate background and plan to stay visible during the meeting. When speaking, if you have not been announced by the chairman, you must use the raise your hand feature and wait to be unmuted by the chairman. Planning Commission members use the raise your hand feature to speak. Unmute your microphone when it is your time to speak, and please state your name when you begin to speak. If you need to recuse or if you need a personal break, use the raise your hand feature. If you have called in by telephone only, or if you are having trouble logging into the Zoom meeting, please email planninginfo@wycokck.org and Secretary Parker will assist you. Proper meeting decorum is expected of all participating in the meeting, and anyone who fails to act properly may be removed from the meeting. The city reserves the right to discontinue a meeting if any inappropriate behavior occurs which prevents the uninterrupted conduct of business. The Planning Commission is a voluntary body of citizens which will review each zoning proposal. For all change of zones, special use permits, vacations, and preliminary plan reviews on tonight's agenda, the Planning Commission makes recommendations to the Unified Government Board of Commissioners, who will then make the final decisions on Thursday, October 1, 2020. For final plats and final plan reviews heard tonight, the Planning Commission's decision is final, and there will not be another hearing. The format for this evening's meeting is as follows. The applicant will make the opening statement explaining the proposal. Please note that the applicant will be given 15 minutes to present their case. The 15 minutes includes the applicant, consultants, and other members of the applicant's team. Members of the Planning Commission will then address any questions they may have to the applicant. Any persons wishing to speak in favor will be called upon and allowed to do so at that time. Then those persons in opposition will be called upon and allowed to make their statements and ask questions. Please note that each member of the public who wishes to speak will be given 5 minutes to express their opinions. Time may not be shared between speakers. A speaker may request to extend their time, and the Planning Commission may, by 2/3 majority vote, extend any speaker's time in 5-minute increments. The applicant will then answer questions and make a closing statement. The public hearing portion of the meeting will be closed, and the public will only be allowed to address the commission if a question is directed to them. The Planning Commission will discuss the application and make their recommendation. If persons in opposition want to formally protest a change of zone or special use permit, a means is available by a legal protest petition, which can be obtained along with the necessary instructions by emailing the Urban Planning and Land Use Department at planninginfo@wycokck.org tomorrow morning. Any application receiving a unanimous vote of recommendation by the Planning Commission will appear on the consent agenda of the Unified Government Board of Commissioners. Unless there is a request to remove an item from the consent agenda by the applicant, a member of the Unified Government Commission, or other interested parties, the Planning Commission's recommendation will be adopted. The consent agenda is heard at the beginning of the meeting at 7 p.m. The Planning Commission will also have a consent agenda as part of their meeting this evening. The consent agenda is the first part of the meeting, and items on the consent agenda are final plats, final plans, or special use permit renewals that have received a staff recommendation to approve. Unless there is a request to remove an item from the consent agenda by the applicant, a member of the staff, a member of the Planning Commission, or other interested parties, the staff recommendation on all of the items on the consent agenda will be adopted by the Planning Commission at one time. I will read a list of agenda items on the consent agenda, and when I have completed the list, the chairman will ask if there are any requests to remove items. This is your time to use the raise your hand feature, be recognized, and request that an item be removed from the consent agenda if you do not agree with the staff recommendation. The Planning Commission is required to disclose contacts about any item on the Planning Commission agenda. Before each item, I will ask if any contacts have been made, and members of the commission will be asked to disclose those contacts. Please note that your opinions will be forwarded to the governing body for their consideration in making a final decision. In addition, those who receive notices for this hearing will again receive them for the hearing on Thursday, October 1, 2020. I will now read the items on the consent agenda. Consideration of the August 10, 2020 City Planning Commission minutes. Special use permit application SP-2020-48. Todd Huffman with the Dent and Detail Clinic. Renewal of a special use permit for an auto body shop at 5015 Gibbs Road. Special use permit application SP-2020-68. Rafael Carrera. Renewal of a special use permit for the temporary use of land to park a work vehicle in the driveway at 2903 Shearer Road. Special use permit application SP-2020-75. Terry D. Mason with Positive Role Models into Demanding Excellence. Renewal of a special use permit for a group home and emergency shelter at 1634 South 29th Street. Special use permit application SP-2020-76. Casey Outlook Rosedale LLC. Renewal of a special use permit for a daycare center at 2605 West 39th Avenue. Special use permit application SP-2020-81. Friendship Inn Incorporated. Renewal of a special use permit for temporary lodging for families of patients at the University of Kansas Health System at 4146 State Line Road. Project Super Bowl Logistics Park. Final plat for a business park at 9700 Leavenworth Road. Replat of Lot 1 Prime Industrial Development. Replat to remove vacated easements to allow better use of the property for the warehouse operation by Premier Investments at 1101 South 5th Street. Plan review application PR-2020-12. Ladina Washington with Alter Support Incorporated. Final plan review for a daycare facility at 9151 Parallel Parkway. Plan review application PR-2020-21. Eduardo Reyes with JP Morgan Chase. Final plan review for a drive-up ATM in the parking lot at 10940 Parallel Parkway. Plan review application PR-2020-22. Kyle Rose with Rose Property Maintenance LLC. Final plan review for a contractor's office and shop with storage yard at 1908 South 74th Street. Plan review application PR-2020-23. Sean Coffer with Scanelli Properties. Final plan review for phase 1 of the business park at 9700 Leavenworth Road. Plan review application PR-2020-25. Jeffrey Schinkel with BCS Design Incorporated. Final plan review for the addition of a liquor store at 9801 Parallel Parkway. The items I have just read are on the consent agenda. Does any member of the commission wish to disclose any contact on any of these items?
No.
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 Please include the following items as part of the record for all of the items on the consent agenda. The city's currently adopted zoning and subdivision regulations, the official zoning map for the area in question, the city's currently adopted master plan for the area in question, the staff report and attachments dated September 14, 2020, the application and other documents, plans, pictures, and maps submitted by the applicant in furtherance of the case and contained in the official file, the publication in the Echo for the special use permits, and the notices to property owners. The commission will vote to approve in one vote these items unless someone requests that an item be removed from the consent agenda.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone in the audience that wants to remove an item from the consent agenda? Please raise your hand. I have Robin, Beebe, and Mary. I'm sorry, I can't see the last name.
It's Milo. I apologize. I had put up my hand before you asked that. We are supposed to be on the agenda for an Airbnb permit request, and I did not hear it.
That's on the non-consent agenda.
You're on the non-consent agenda later on this evening.
Okay, thank you. My apologies.
That's all right, no problem. Again, anyone in the audience that wants to remove anything from the consent agenda?
It's the non-consent.
Seeing none, is there anyone on the planning commission, any commissioners that want to have anything reviewed from the consent agenda? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve the consent agenda made by Commissioner Miller, seconded by Commissioner Huey. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Armstrong,
Aye.
Conley,
Aye.
Ernst,
Aye.
Huey,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Moeller,
Aye.
Pauly. Mr. Chairman, that motion to approve the items on the consent agenda with the staff comments and conditions passes. 8 in favor and none opposed.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I would note that the special use permit renewals, that is a recommendation for approval, and they will go before the Board of Commissioners on Thursday, October 1, 2020 at 7 p.m.
Thank you, Janet.
That concludes the consent agenda. So if you are on the call and your petition was on the consent agenda, you are more than welcome to continue to listen, or you can go ahead and drop off the meeting. Our first item under the non-consent items is change of zone application 3228, Chase Thompson. Change of zone from R1 single family district to AG agriculture district for a garden, fish pond, and tree farm at 3100 South 74th Street. Please include the following items as part of the record for this case. The city's currently adopted zoning and subdivision regulations, the official zoning map for the area in question, the city's currently adopted master plan for the area in question, the staff report and attachments dated September 14, 2020, the application and other documents, plans, pictures, and maps submitted by the applicant in furtherance of the case and contained in the official file, the notice in the Wyandotte Echo, and the notices to property owners. Does any member of the commission have any contact to disclose on this application?
No.
No.
Thank you. Mr. Thompson, are you available, please?
Yes,
You
sir.
would If you would please go ahead and give us your name and address for the record and tell us about your project.
My name is Chase Thompson, and the property address is 3100 South 74th Street. It's a 15-acre piece of property that is 100% forest. There was a correction that was meant to be made. We're not planning to add a fish pond. There's currently a pond on a small portion of the property, but our plan is to actually leave the property really as is. There is quite a bit that we've been working on with diseased trees, and so we're trying to clean up the dead trees and promote the growth of trees that we think are going to make it a little bit more of a diverse forest.
Okay, and have you commenced any work on the property as of now?
Well, not really. There's been a little bit of removal of some of the dead standing timber, here and there, but nothing significant.
You're not doing anything by putting in a driveway or any type of substantial earth movement that requires permitting?
Well, so there's access to the property, and so there's not a rock driveway that really extends beyond the first probably the first 90 feet.
Okay. Anything else you wanted to add?
I think that's it.
Okay. I'm going to open up for questions for the petitioner. Commissioner Jones.
Mr. Thompson, just a quick question, kind of piggybacking on what Chairman Carson asked about. I think he might have been asking about the report shows that you have a neighbor that expressed some sort of public opposition regarding unauthorized construction. What do you know about that?
Like that we're building a structure, or yeah, I'm not really sure.
I think it pertains to work going on that's non-permitted work on the property.
There's not anything that we're currently doing that I'm aware of that would require a permit. There's not a there's not any structures that have been added. So I'm really not sure what that would be pertaining to.
So, Mr. Thompson, let me ask you something a little bit more specific. In the report says a neighboring property owner, Dale Freed, is the one who's having a concern about, made the statement about some unauthorized construction. Have you talked to Mr. Freed?
I've never met Dale, so I don't know who that is.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions for the petitioner? I am not seeing.
Yeah, and so there may be some confusion. So that's not the property. That's what you just saw is actually across the street. And I also wanted to point out that since we did not place the sign was placed in the wrong location, and so it wasn't. It was actually a third piece of property, not the one that was just shown in the picture. So I do know that actually the location that you guys had placed the sign, it is my neighbor just to the south of me. He is in the process of building a large shop, and my communication with him is that they've cleared the area, but they haven't started on it yet. And so I think that actually I don't have a neighbor named Dale. We actually know all the neighbors, and so I think he may actually be confused as to what property that this rezoning is actually pertaining to.
Okay, so you think it's just a matter of confusion on which property is being discussed?
I do, and the gentleman that's planning the project, his name is Ken. He is planning. He actually kind of discussed whether he
Actually, I can make it real simple for you, Mr. Thompson, without going into another property that has no bearing on this one. Are you doing any work on that property at all right now?
well, again, nothing more than what was stated previously.
All right. I think that clears it up.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to open up the public portion of the meeting. Is there anyone in the audience that wants to speak in favor of or in opposition to this request? If so, please raise your hand. Okay, I'm not seeing anyone, so I'm going to go and close the public portion of the meeting. I'll go to Director Hand for staff comment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, as the applicant said, this is approximately a 15-acre parcel. There are adjacent agriculturally zoned properties directly across the street and sort of catty corner from the parcel. It's a Tetris-looking parcel. Mr. Thompson did have has two other applications in progress for two other properties for changes of zone that are just under the required 5-acre minimum. So he's going to come back next month for with a variance for those two moving forward. But for this one specifically, there are no NOVs. Again, he intends to basically just preserve the land. He can correct me if I'm wrong, but of the three properties, it was our understanding that eventually he potentially might build a house on this property, at which time he would just have to come back with a building permit to move that forward. It sounds like there's been some confusion about what property is where and who's doing what. There was concern, and we double checked. We weren't able to, this happened all in the last day and late on Friday. So we weren't able to go out to the property to confirm, but we do know that there are no permits pulled for this property, whether it's a driveway permit with Public Works or any other land disturbance grading permit with building inspections.
And proper notice was given to all the stakeholders in and around that property, correct?
Yes.
It was given. We may have placed, it sounds like we placed the sign on the wrong side of the street potentially, which I apologize for.
But that does not impact anything tonight.
I don't think so, no.
Right.
We do recommend approval with a couple of conditions. Again, this is basically just the notification moving forward that if any work of substantial work happens, a grading permit, a land clearance permit, a building permit does need to happen moving forward. Specifically also, if you look down on the property, let me just go back to this property's driveway does cut through, and we do not have a easement or a shared use agreement for that property going through his, essentially accessing through his property and to this. So moving forward, we just condition approval, hopefully that we can get that that easement acquired here for this property owner moving forward.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Connolly, you have a question?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
I guess Director Hand, so you're saying that it doesn't matter that the sign's in the wrong location?
No, it matters. I don't think it necessarily matters as it relates to the merits of the case, though.
I can't hear what you said. I'm sorry.
It definitely matters. We want to be putting those on the right property. It does not affect the merits of the case, however. I mean, I would defer to legal counsel if there's any issue there.
Well, I guess my question is, I mean, the sign's placed there so people could ride by, and I guess as the person that opposed it had questions about the wrong property. So assumingly people rode by and they didn't know that the property that we're looking at was the property that was going to get the stuff done. And you don't think that's a problem?
Patrick?
The mailings are the legally required notice under state law.
So the signs are
I don't think it changes that, but if the commission feels that from a practical standpoint, there was some issue, but I'm not concerned from a legal standpoint.
So the signs are not required. Is that what you're saying, counsel?
Right. The mailed notices, as long as the mailed notices went to the proper places, we're okay.
Other questions for staff? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve subject to the stipulations in the staff report.
Second.
Motion to approve made by Commissioner Miller, seconded by Commissioner Mueller. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Armstrong,
Aye.
Conley,
Aye.
Ernst,
Aye.
Ewing,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Mueller,
Aye.
Polly.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, that motion to recommend approval of this change of zone application, subject to the conditions in the staff report, passes 8 in favor, none opposed.
Thank you. This will be heard once again on October 1st, 2020, and I believe that will be in Zoom format as well. Thank you.
Our first special use permit is number SP-2020-58. Christopher T. Phillips. Special use permit to store equipment and work trucks on the property at 3201 Pomeroy Drive. Please include the following items as part of the record for this case. The city's currently adopted zoning and subdivision regulations, the official zoning map for the area in question, the city's currently adopted master plan for the area in question, the staff report and attachments dated September 14, 2020, the application, other documents, plans, pictures, and maps submitted by the applicant in furtherance of the case and contained in the official file, the notice in the Wyandotte Echo, and the notices to property owners. Does any member of the commission have any contact to disclose with regard to this case?
No.
Yes.
Go ahead.
I had contact with Commissioner Bynum.
Thank you.
Okay,
Okay,
and that was Planning Commissioner Mueller that said that.
That is correct. Okay, Mr. Phillips, I've got a Crispy and I've got a Phillips on my call list. So if you are Mr. Phillips that pertains to this case, if you please raise your hand and I'll move you over to where we can listen, where we can hear you. Christopher Phillips. Okay. Go ahead and unmute yourself, sir. Thank you. Give us your name and address. Yes, go ahead and give us your name and address. Tell us about your
Christopher
project.
Phillips, 3201 Pomeroy Drive, Kansas City, Kansas.
Go ahead and tell us what you're here tonight for. What's your request?
My request is for a special use permit to park my company vehicles over there. I think I only have 2 vehicles that I need for the special use permit. There's a dump truck that's 5,200 pounds, and then a 2010 Chevy Kodiak that is a lightweight vehicle. I'm not for sure on the weight on that. And then that would be the only 2 commercial vehicles. And then I also have a loader, or 2 loaders and an excavator.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm just pulling up your case here. And what is the zoning? You had this property rezoned previously, correct?
I had it zoned ag, and then so actually I got the land for me and my kids to go play and ride dirt bikes and stuff. And I actually built a building there for animals and stuff like that. And we had a couple ducks, but we didn't have no water or anything over there. So by the time I moved them over there, they only lasted about a week before, other animals got to them. And so I actually just got water this week. I was waiting until I got everything in place to acquire any other animals, but basically we just use the land to ride dirt bikes and mess around in the woods. And I needed a place to park a couple of pieces of equipment. So I was just parking there overnight, and they leave every day. So I didn't see no harm in it, and then my neighbors obviously see an issue with it. So whenever I spoke with the city, they said just apply for a special use permit. So this is the route that I'm going.
Can you speak to the notice of violations that you've received?
Yeah, I'm not really understanding the whole violation thing. So I got a violation, and it didn't say what it was, so I didn't know how to correct it. You know what I mean?
You had a notice of violation, did not indicate what the violation was.
No, it was like a piece of paper that was stuck to the thing that had a price on it that said if I didn't fix it from this date, then I would be charged a violation. Then I finally received something in the mail saying what the violation was, and it was for the fence and gravel driveway. And then they said something about illegal dumping, but there wasn't no illegal dumping. I was actually dumping dirt, and I didn't know that was illegal until they told me. So then I shut it all down.
And have you corrected the issues in your notice of violation with regard to
Yeah.
the dump, with regard to the driveway and whatever the other issue was?
Yeah, I did. I corrected because it was a second driveway or whatever, and I corrected that issue. But then I got another It was a violation posted on there, but I haven't received anything in the mail to tell me what it was. And the guy actually came down and spoke with one of my buddies that was uh, working in my shop on his car, and he said everything was good. And then I walked down to that other entrance or the entrance that was there, and there was a violation down there. So I don't know what it is now.
So
I haven't had a chance
you
to
have
correct it.
you have other activity going on at that building besides your kids riding bikes and things, because now you've got people working on vehicles in your
Well,
shop.
I had a friend changing his oil. He asked to change his oil so he didn't have to do it on the ground. So I told him he could. It wasn't
Do
really
you
like,
see why this is starting to sound like a commercial operation to us, sir?
yeah, I mean, I
You've got
apologize.
commercial
I
vehicles
didn't
parked there.
realize.
You've got people making vehicle repairs there. I mean, you can see what the way we're looking at it.
Yeah, I mean, I can see the way you're looking at it.
And
but
you're telling me you're telling us that this is an agricultural piece of property.
Yeah, I
Yet
plan
there's
on
other
having
things on
animals
it.
there.
Well,
Huh?
but right now, the one thing you don't have there is animals.
Yeah, I
You have
had two
trucks and
animals
you
there.
have people changing oil in their vehicles. What you don't have on your agricultural property is any type of agricultural, anything that's of that nature.
So if I had agriculture, I need water to actually water animals. So since I actually just got water, I plan on having animals. I didn't know there was a deadline on having my animals there whenever I zoned ag.
But you were not aware that you couldn't keep commercial equipment there, and you did.
I wasn't aware until after I did.
Okay, I'm going to open this up for other questions. Other questions for the petitioner? Seeing none, we'll open up the public portion of the, I'm sorry, excuse me. Commissioner Jones.
That's okay. Mr. Phillips, so our report is saying that you want to, it gives us the impression that you want to use this property for commercial uses, as Chairman Carson was just stating. But then I just heard you say you're interested in using it from an agricultural standpoint. So the question is, and clarify for us what you really want, because what we're seeing is a special use permit for one thing, but I'm hearing something else.
I'm wanting to use it for agricultural stances, but I just was parking some of my commercial vehicles there just for overnight purposes. You know what I mean? And I actually plan on having animals and goats and stuff like that for me and my kids. But I mean, I didn't know there was like a deadline on having this stuff. You know what I mean? I was just kind of, I bought the land and I started, in the pictures, that's my trailer, that we take camping. It's like I didn't know there was going to be so many guidelines on it. Yeah, this is my first time ever owning a piece of land. You know what I mean? I own a house, but I didn't, I'm not really familiar with all this. So I'm kind of learning along the way,
But you were savvy enough to have it rezoned for agricultural for tax purposes, correct?
No, I had it rezoned agricultural so I can have animals. Will they let me have animals in residential R1?
Okay. Commissioner Mueller.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Was there a building permit secured for this building on this property?
Yes, sir.
Any follow-ups, Commissioner Mueller?
No.
Any other questions for the petitioner before we open up the public portion of the meeting? Okay. Anyone in the audience that wants to speak? And I'm sorry, Commissioner Jones.
Yes. So Mr. Phillips, then if you don't use this property, if you want to use it for agricultural, it just seems that you would not want to pursue this particular special use permit because it's not for agricultural use.
No, I mean, I was just wanting to be able to park, like if I wasn't using my dump truck to be able to park it there. But I mean, it's not like detrimental to me to have this in place. You know what I mean? Like it was basically just more of a convenience to make everybody happy. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, it was just kind of a convenience factor, really. And this is kind of the where I was guided to go whenever I got the violation for it, you know. And I don't really know. I mean, I don't know how this whole thing works. I mean, if it gets denied, it gets denied. I don't know. I mean, I don't really know much about it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just trying to figure it all out.
So if you have a business and you don't park your trucks here, because we're concerned about the violations that are mentioned in the report. If you have a business and you don't park the trucks here, where is the location that you would be parking your commercial vehicles and storing the equipment that it says that you're wanting to store at this property?
well, most of the time my equipment sets on site on my jobs that I have. But like my dump truck, I just pay to park it with a with one of my guys that I bought the truck from down at Terry's Hauling. So I mean, really nothing else goes there other than my me stopping by there every once in a while. You know, it's like I don't know. I think in reference, I think they're thinking like the size of a commercial business, like Miles Excavating or something like that. But no, it's basically I just park some stuff there overnight and it's gone usually every day. You know, it's I don't know. It's like I'm not actually running a business out there. It's just parking stuff there.
I think that's part of what your neighbors apparently think. So my other question is, have you taken advantage of an opportunity to talk to your neighbors and understand what their concerns are?
Yeah, which I spoke with my neighbors and everybody was good with it, except for I have a neighbor that's up the street that he didn't even speak with me at all. Basically, whenever I was actually building my shop there for stuff, you know, it's just like he just was constantly driving by, and then I heard him talking to other neighbors, so I went up to his house and tried to talk to him. Well, as soon as I tried to talk to him, it automatically turned into a violent situation, and name calling and all that other stuff. So I just kind of avoided him really, and he was kind of just really been harassing us and like taking pictures of my kids and on their dirt bikes and taking pictures of my wife and over at the shop and taking pictures of us. Of course, it's we're kind of in the midst of growing pains, and I try to explain to everybody, it's like anything, I'm the new person in the neighborhood, and they were kind of upset about me clearing some of the brush in the woods because it was mainly brushed tree area. So I got a brush hog to clear it out so we can ride through it and walk through it and stuff like that. And he said that they're a Sahara neighborhood, that we shouldn't be clearing those brush for the animals and all this other stuff. Well, you know, I didn't, I bought it to enjoy it. I didn't buy it to leave it as is. I'm mainly trying to spend time with my kids before they get old enough to move out and don't see them anymore.
Commissioner Jones, any follow-up?
No, thank you.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Mueller? Commissioner Mueller?
I'm sorry, Mr.
That's right.
Chairman, I didn't unmute. So, Mr. Phillips, you work in construction,
Yes, sir.
and do you have to pull permits for any of the work you do?
Yeah, in other city entities, I do like mainly like a driveway permit. I do concrete flat work mostly, but usually I GC jobs. So, a lot of the city entities already have the permits in place.
Right. So you understand how those permits work, and you don't understand how the permits where you live work?
No, I didn't really realize that dumping dirt or moving dirt, you know, and stuff like that would be something I would need a permit for. I guess I didn't really realize that situation of it until I was told, and which as soon as I realized that, I was basically planning on building a house here in the next 10 years whenever I just rezoned it ag. And I'm trying to put a house to the back of the property. So I was trying to make another drive and fill in kind of some ravine area to make a driveway. So that was my intent at first, but I guess I didn't really realize all the detail in it.
I'm having a hard time putting the two together. You do commercial work, or you pull permits, you understand permits in where you make money, but you don't understand permits where you live. Am I getting this right?
Well, I understand like driveway permits. Like if I needed to put a concrete driveway in, I understand that I have to, on the easement side of it, that's the city side of it. So I understand the permit on that side of it. I understand if I'm building a structure that I need a building permit, but I didn't understand that just, moving dirt and putting dirt in an area, you would need a permit. So no, I didn't really understand that because I've never really been in that detailed work. It's mainly just been, you know, like parking lots and like, putting in curb and, sidewalks and ADA ramps and stuff like that. You know, usually the commercial city entities have the permits in place, on projects like that.
Well, I'm having a hard time go understanding your thinking when you knew or apparently knew what you were doing when you zoned it agricultural, and then upon getting agricultural zoning, you now are bringing in dump trucks, filling in things, and basically not doing anything along the agricultural line. I'm having a problem with that disconnect.
Well, the agricultural side of it's for animals. And I mean, like I said, I haven't had water. I mean, I just got power like 6 months ago, and I'm getting water this week. I mean, it's pretty hefty expenses for. I mean, it was close to $10,000 to get power. It's close to $7,000 to get water there. You know what I mean? Like, it's just kind of been a progressing deal for me. So, like, now that I have water, I mean, we had a couple ducks, but like I said, they just didn't last a week over there. So, I think we're going to move on to with like some goats or something like that. I don't plan on having any cows or anything, but just, like some, cool stuff for my kids and to mess around. Just didn't know, I didn't realize there was a deadline on having this stuff. You know what I mean? Like,
Okay, Commissioner Mullers, go ahead.
I'm good, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Mr. Phillips, on the property, what are you storing construction equipment inside the barn?
No, I'm not.
So we've got emails that are saying that in the mornings, you've got workers showing up to load material out of that barn when they leave for the day. So you're saying that's incorrect?
No, I don't. We don't load materials out of there. I mean, there's nothing in there, but I mean, if something breaks, yeah, I do fix it. But actually, one of my skid loaders I keep there to maintain the property. 90% of the property is in a valley, so I mean, I use a brush hog to brush hog down and keep the area maintained. So
okay, and what about the dumping of concrete and some other material back on that property?
that was all cleaned up, and somebody else has dumped it and I cleaned it. But yeah, I did dump. Somebody told me that I can dump anything that was 12 minus or 12 inches or smaller, whatever. And I made sure everything got cleaned up, and um, you know, like I told the guy, I apologize. I didn't have any idea. You know what I mean? So.
Okay, and what about the calls from the fire department about an unpermitted fire burning that was going on at the property?
Yeah, one of my sons lit a fire over there, and yeah, I'm dealing with that now. So
What was being burned at that location? Was that construction material?
no, it was just brush that was brought up out of the woods, dead brush, and piles of just. And I mean, there was some wood from around the shop from whenever we built it, but it was mainly just brush from down in the woods.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and, unless there are any other questions from the commissioners, I'm going to open up to the public portion of the meeting. Okay. Is there anyone in the audience that wants to speak in favor of or opposition to this request? Please raise your hand. I have a Jeff who would like to speak. Jeff, go ahead and unmute yourself and give us your full name and your address, please.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Go ahead, sir.
Hi, this is Jeff Widener. I live at 3640 Pomeroy Drive, and I've lived there since 1979. And I believe that maybe 10% of what Chris Phillips just told you is true. he has taken construction rubble and made a parking lot. And he has had, I don't know, since he's had this property in November, somewhere in there, he has had numerous construction vehicles parked on this property. He leaves there every morning with his crew. His crew parks their personal vehicles there, and then they head out to do their construction work. Until recently, it has just been a few commercial vehicles. Other than that, it's been months of this activity. So this is not an agricultural site. This is an industrial commercial site. I'm the only one logged on to this computer, but I have a dozen people here from my neighborhood ready to tell you their views of this whole situation.
Are there other people in attendance that want to speak? If so, they're going to need to come to the microphone and give us their name and address, please.
Okay.
Or if they want to come to the microphone, give us their name and address, tell us they're opposed, that's fine. We'll keep count.
Okay. My name is James Brennan. I live at 3146 North 77th Street. I'm in opposition to this activity, as we previously had the discourse already from Jeff. This is being used as an light industrial property, the nearest as we can tell looking at the city ordinances. It's what we would typically call in construction a construction yard, where the contractor brings his equipment in, he leaves it overnight, and then every morning they depart. They actually load material onto their equipment, which we have several of the people here in attendance can actually talk about the time that they're doing that in the early morning hours as they're loading stuff. And this is not an area that is actually, this is an area that's zoned residential. I think that's in accordance with the city's master plan. We are a quiet type neighborhood, and we don't need an industrial concern coming in here and blighting the neighborhood. I think there will actually be some people that will speak later on that will talk about their plans for developing some of that area into multi-million dollar high-end housing like homestead residential, and that their plans are actually torpedoed now. I would say that I think that Mr. Phillips has had the property for quite a long period of time now. I think probably going on 2 years. And it seems like if there was actually going to be animals there, they would have showed up before now. And there probably would have been water there. But I think that that's probably the gist of my comments at this time. So I surrender my time to my other neighbors.
All right, thank you. Whoever's going to speak, please give us your name and address.
Yes, my name is John Alt. I live at 3132 North 77th Street. I am the gentleman that Mr. Phillips referred to as taking too many pictures. And I admit to that. I'm also the gentleman that had words with Mr. Phillips. Unfortunately, I'm 66 years old, and outside of the fact that Mr. Phillips threatened to kick my old you-know-what all the way down the street if I didn't quit taking pictures. Anyway, that's me. Mr. Phillips has done exactly what he intended to do by getting this changed from residential to agricultural. As you all well know, an agricultural, he has the right to put up one outbuilding, of which there are no regulations as to the size, dimensions, or anything. I do not know why he would need to have a building as large as he has, with 18-inch thick concrete base, 3-phase electric, I believe, an overhead door that will accommodate dump trucks, plural, to go in and out of the building, just so he could house some ducks and some llamas. It's a little overkill for me. On one particular day, I counted 26 dump trucks. And I'm not talking just regular little dump trucks like Mr. Phillips has. I'm talking about semi-sized dump trucks hauling debris, not dirt, asphalt, dead concrete onto his property and dumping it over the ravine. He also brought in on the south driveway next to the BPU fence on one particular day, 15 dump trucks. I have pictures and video of all of it. Mr. Phillips he knows what he's doing, and he's used this situation to further his business entity that he has running out of that property. He has no intention of having animals there. He never has. His plan was to get this zone so he could build his building, and I'm afraid Mr. Phillips kind of underestimated the neighborhood. We do not want this in our neighborhood. Had Mr. Phillips come in, been sociable, built a home, put up some fences like he really wanted to have livestock, put in water before he built this way too big building, and done the things that he should have done, we would have welcomed him into the neighborhood. But we're not going to have an industrial site that devalues our property, trucks and trailers that move in and out of there every day, that are destroying our streets. Our property values are going down. If I want to sell my house, who wants to buy a house with a construction company living 4 doors down and dump trucks pulling out at 6:30, 7 o'clock every morning with the beep, beep, beep backup noise? It is not an occasional situation. This goes on daily, daily, daily. Even though the city has told him to cease and desist with having his construction equipment there, he goes in and out every day. As a matter of fact, when we got here for this meeting tonight, one of his dump trucks pulled down the street while we were waiting to get online. So we would like to see this stop. If Mr. Phillips wants to go back to his original plan, build a home, and get some animals spawned. But we do not want him to be allowed to continue doing what he's doing. So
All right.
thank you for
sir.
your time.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wants to speak?
Yes, we have another.
Okay, how many more people want to speak? Just so we can kind of get a count.
About 4, 3.
Oh, okay. And like I said, if you're just in opposition, you can give us your name and address, tell us you're opposed, and that's fine too.
I'm Nancy Mark. I live at 3210 Pomeroy Drive, and I own the duplex on the other side for 3212 Pomeroy Drive. And his driveway to this area is right across the street from my property. The way I understand it, when I first got the letter saying that he was going to change it to agriculture, I had my neighbor, who's a policeman down the street, call and inquire, just what he was intended to do with the property. And I understand that he was going to have cows and chickens over there, and he was going to build a barn. Well, when the construction started, it ended up, it's not a barn by any means of the situation. And so all this construction stuff and tearing down the trees, and of course there's the creek that runs over there, and there's wildlife down there, which I understand he can't bother that creek. As far as the trails for his children and their ATVs, why, that would be fine as long as it's not on a weekend before 10 o'clock. And, sometimes you hear them over there before then. Not very often has there been ATVs. It's more the construction people in and out, in and out. And my question is, he said that the stuff that was dumped in there was removed. I think he took and covered it up with more dirt, so it's not visible no more. So that's just my opinion, and I oppose this mess.
All right. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Next.
My name is Larry Bodenson. I live at 3224 Pomeroy Drive. And I moved into this nice, quiet neighborhood the day of the shutdown. I didn't even know if I was going to have any, movers to move me. But we got in and it's a beautiful spot, and I was really impressed about how quiet it was. We moved from Johnson County, and I was really impressed about how quiet it was until I started paying attention. And I live right across the street from this full-blown construction destruction company, is what I call it, because he brings in all this ground up asphalt and concrete and slams it in. The noise is incredible. And then they try to cover the noise with a boom box that plays that heavy bass music. And poor neighbors next to me, their kids can't even get naps. But I agree with everything everybody said in this thing. This is a completely commercial site, is all it is. It's a full-blown business, and I'm opposed to it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else?
My name is Gordon White, and I live at 3850 Pomeroy Drive. I've been a resident there for 44 years now. And I agree with everything I've heard here tonight. And I am definitely opposed to a construction operation at that site. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else?
Yep, my name's Steve Nerschel, and I live at 3748 Pomeroy Drive. Again, we oppose this.
Okay, thank you, sir. Anyone else?
Yes, my name is Fern Widener. I live at 3640 Pomeroy Drive, and I do oppose this.
Thank you, ma'am. Is that it? Is that it? Excuse me.
We have more. We have more. My name is Jody Nerschel. I live at 3748 Pomeroy Drive. And I have yet to see Mr. Phillips do any of his agriculture claims that he has made this evening. All that I have observed there on his property is construction activity. And I oppose him being on this property with that construction company.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
My name is Marcia Bierman. I live at 3132 North 77th Street.
There's all these people in every.
I'm opposed to this.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Bierman.
Thank you.
And there's one more.
One more, okay?
My name is Nancy Bodenson. I live at 3224 Pomeroy Drive. And I am with Larry that just moved in at the shutdown. And it was really disappointing to see that a construction site was across the street from us, and I firmly oppose it.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Okay, I am going to now go to Mr. Paul Constant. Paul Constant.
I'm muted now.
Go ahead. I can hear you now.
I own.
Sir, you've got a really bad connection. We can't. There you go. Go ahead.
The Phillips property. Had it for 18 years. Paid. Oh. Better?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead and give us your name and address one more time. I don't think
Paul
you were cutting out.
Constant. Paul Constant, 10767 Larson, Overland Park, Kansas.
Okay.
I own Homestead Residential, and we own the 27 acres north of Phillips. Had it for 18 years, paid residential tax on it because I'd always planned to turn it into some residential estate lots. And actually starting to get close to that, implementing that plan. And now that, with this construction site there, I've had to put it on hold. Hopefully it will go away and I'll be able to sell, develop and sell a few lots to some estates. I sold some acreage to Timmons there that built that beautiful $1 million house on Loop Lane. And it's kind of a model I had to put several lots in there. But anyhow, hopefully I'll be able to get that going again soon. I am opposed to the way that Phillips is using that property right now.
Okay, thank you, sir. Anyone else in opposition or wants to speak in favor of the project? Okay, seeing none, I will go ahead and call upon Mr. Phillips to address some of the concerns of the neighbors about the use of the property.
Are you there? Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
I mean, I didn't realize that it was that much of an issue. And if it is, I mean, I can move everything out of there. I mean, I didn't build the building for construction use. Like I said, I built the building for me and my kids to go over there and play. And I do use some of the equipment around the land to do stuff down in the woods, like build ramps and stuff for them for their four-wheelers and dirt bikes. But I mean, if it's that big of an issue, I can move it to somewhere else. I mean, I ain't trying to offend anybody, but nobody's talked to us. You know what I mean? Like like I told John Old, if somebody came down and just told us, we don't mind. It ain't a big deal, but it's the vulgarness. As soon as I, came up to him and he was taking a picture, he called me a F and all this other stuff. And I was like, he said the owner, and I'm like, well, I'm the owner. I don't understand what the issue is, and it's just, I don't know, man. If people would just communicate with us, we're not bad people. I'm not a bad person.
Can you just address the commercial activities that your neighbors spoke about? Are those activities going on?
No, all them dump trucks coming in and stuff. Yeah, I dumped some dirt there, and I'm not lying about that. You know what I mean? I did dump some dirt there. Do I? I go over there and like I said, I park some of my trucks over there overnight, so I do pull out. I haven't denied none of that. I'm not running my business out of it. I don't have an office. I just park some of my trucks there, but I never ever go over there before 8 a.m. and the early mornings. Like that's none of it. And it couldn't be my dump truck because it's broke down. It's been broke down for a month. So, I don't know. I mean, it's not a big deal. I mean, if there's that many people that's upset about it, I mean, I can move everything out of there. It's not, it's not like die hard for me to be there. Is more or less convenience.
All right. Thank you. We'll go ahead and close the public portion of the meeting. We'll go to Director Hand for staff comment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is Gunnar Hand, Director of Planning and Urban Design. As was discussed on the call today, there's been lots of public opposition to this SUP. The SUP generated from an initial notice of violation that were mentioned at the beginning of this presentation. There are currently 3 on the property. One has been resolved. The first one obviously is for the storage of commercial vehicles on the property, and that's why that is being sought through the SUP. As we've mentioned in other SUPs, if an entitlement is the means by which to address a notice of violation, we ask that the applicant cease that operation or clean up that property or whatever we asked them to do to address the NOV over the course of the last couple of months. As has been described and as we've seen on multiple site visits, there have been different types of trucks, different types of equipment on the property. We cannot technically use any of the information that's been provided to us as it relates to those NOVs, but some of that information has been attached to the staff report that we've received from the public, multiple pictures and so on and so forth. But the pictures you see here are from our zoning enforcement staff on some of our site visits that we've been to the property. So again, that first one was being addressed by this SUP potentially. The second one was in regards to the fence that originally was placed over the gravel, over the driveway, and it's since been removed. That gate has been removed, and they essentially had stuff to block the view along the gate, and those have been removed. So that notice of violation has been confirmed and addressed. There's additional notice of violation was for that second driveway that had been mentioned. It is still in violation. Mr. Phillips has removed the part of that second gravel driveway farther on the south of the property from the public right of way, but it still exists on the existing property. And so there have been 2 administrative citations. Those are the administrative citations are what are posted to the property. The notice of violations are sent via mail. So if there's some confusion about those notice of violations, those additional notice of violations, we can follow up with Mr. Phillips and our zoning enforcement officer to clarify how we can address those other violations. We did mention the burn This season, the fire department didn't have a burn season, wasn't giving out burning permits. And so at the time of that burn, when it was called in, apparently Mr. Phillips had yet to connect water to the property. And so the fire department had to come out, and the fire marshal did provide, add some additional citations on this property. So there's a history there. I will say that in the original change of zone to agriculture, the applicant, Mr. Phillips, explained that their intent was to eventually build a house, but they wanted to build an accessory structure. Again, in an agriculturally zoned property, you can build an accessory structure without a primary structure, so long as it is for agricultural purposes. So specifically to carry out the business of farming or maintain the property. In this case, maintain the property since there's no farm. Accessory buildings such as barns, silos, and other exclusively agricultural structures, roadside stands, etc., provided that such structures are set back at least 50 feet from any street line. That's the letter of the law for accessory uses on an AG property. Because of the history, because of the delays we've had in trying to get the applicant to submit for this SUP over the course of time, and because of all the notice of violations, staff recommends denial.
Any questions of Director Hand? Commissioner Muller.
Gunner, if we were to revoke the SUP, what would be procedure for remediation of the property?
It would go back to just the notice of violation, and we would have to administer administrative citations until he removed all the commercial vehicles off the property.
What about the fill and asphalt and things like that?
We're going to continue to follow up on all those other NOVs accordingly. I think the issue here is that the protocol or the process by which you would release administrative citations are at the UG currently is you basically go out every 30 days. And each time you go out there, the fee increases just a little bit more if the issue is still present at the time of the visit. The first one's $100, second one's $250. It slowly goes up and eventually gets into the thousands, but by that time you're 6 months out. So it can become a hefty price tag over time. It really doesn't cost all that much for the first couple of months, considering what has been stored at this property and the frequency by which it has been stored. Again, the applicant had admitted that they're storing them there every night, which means someone's driving a dump truck down this residential road every day, twice a day.
Other questions, Commissioner Muller?
No, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions for the director? Seeing none, I will stand for a motion.
Motion to deny based on the staff report, comments by staff, public opposition, and the sentiment expressed by the petitioner himself.
Second.
A motion to deny made by Commissioner Jones for the reasons stated by the maker, seconded by Commissioner Muller. Any discussion on motion for denial? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Armstrong,
Aye.
Conley,
Aye.
Burns,
Nay.
Huey,
Aye.
Jones,
Commissioner Jones, I don't think she heard you.
Aye. Sorry.
Miller,
Aye.
Muller,
Aye.
Pauly.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, that motion to recommend denial of this application for the reasons outlined by Planning Commissioner Jones passes 7 in favor and 1 opposed.
All right, thank you. This will be heard once again on October 1st before the Board of Commissioners. I believe that will be a Zoom call as well. Thank you.
Our next special use permit is SP-2020-78. Jamie Reddick, home occupation special use permit for a single customer salon at 2947 North 83rd Street. Please include the following items as part of the record for this case. The city's currently adopted zoning and subdivision regulations, the official zoning map for the area in question, the city's currently adopted master plan for the area in question, the staff report and attachments dated September 14, 2020, the application and other documents, plans, pictures, and maps submitted by the applicant in furtherance of the case and contained in the official file, the notice in the Wyandotte Echo, and the notices to property owners. Does any member of the commission have any contact to disclose with regard to this case?
No.
No.
Thank you. Ms. Reddick, I've got you queued up to speak. If you could go ahead and give us your name and address, please, for the record, and tell us what you'd like to do.
Hi, my name is Jamie Reddick, and I'm the resident at 2947 North 83rd Street, and I am trying to just open up a single-person salon in the basement of my home in a room that is closed off to the rest of my home and has a separate entrance. And I just need approval from the city, so then I can move on to get approval from the state and be under their you guys' rules and regulations and also state rules and regulations.
Okay. Thank you. Are there any questions for the petitioner? Seeing none, I will open up the public portion of the meeting. Is there anyone in the audience that wants to speak in favor of or in opposition to? I see a Sutton. I'm going to go ahead and allow you to speak. If you could go ahead and give us your name and address, please, for the record. M. Sutton. Sutton.
Hello?
Yes.
Hey, how's it going? Thank
Good.
you. Hey, I live at 1628 South 29th Street.
How about your name first?
Matthew Sutton.
Thank you.
Hey, I think I may have missed something. On the consent section of that, I was waiting on a petition 20402-0060 for Terry Mason.
I'm not sure. We're talking about a different application right now.
You guys are in the non-consent section, and I'm
sorry?
talking about you guys are in the non-consent section of the agenda, right?
Correct. Everything on the consent agenda was approved, sir.
Sir, this is my first meeting, and that was
That's okay.
my bad, but I did miss that. I meant to key in right then, and I missed it.
Okay, well, it has all the items on the consent agenda have been approved, and they'll be heard once again at the October 1st meeting of the Board of Commissioners.
Okay, all right. Well, I do oppose the pride.
Okay, well, at this point, it doesn't really matter, sir, because we've already heard those cases. You'll need to bring up that opposition on October 1st before the Board of Commissioners.
All right. Hey, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're back to you, Ms. Reddick. Anyone want to speak in favor of or in opposition to your request? I am not seeing anyone. I will go ahead and close the public. Excuse me. Sorry, I thought I saw a hand up. It went down. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close the public portion of the meeting. We'll go to Director Hand for staff comment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This project has no recorded opposition. There have been no NOVs on the property. Again, it came to us through actually business license, and we recognized based on what they were requesting that they did need an SUP for this home occupation, which is why they're here. We apply the same standards that we do to sort of other home occupations as it relates to no signage and so on and so forth. We also applied a condition of approval to limit all of the parking in the driveway, so no no on-street parking. And with that, we recommend approval for 2 years.
Okay. Any questions for Director Hand? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve with staff stipulations.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion made by Commissioner Huey, seconded by Commissioner Muller. I'll get you next time, Commissioner Armstrong. Any discussion on that motion for approval? Seeing none, roll call.
Armstrong?
Aye.
Conley?
Aye.
Ernst?
Aye.
Huey?
Aye.
Jones?
Aye.
Miller?
Aye.
Moeller?
Aye.
Hawley?
Oh.
Mr. Chairman, that motion to recommend approval of SP 2020-78, subject to the staff's conditions, passes 8 in favor and none opposed.
Thank you, Ms. Reddick. This will be heard once again on October 1st before the Board of Commissioners. It'll also be in a Zoom format.
Our next application is special use permit SP 2020-79, Maggie Kittinger with Church of Scientology of Kansas City. Special use permit for a dormitory communal living space at 2220 Central Avenue. Please include the following items as part of the record for this case. The city's currently adopted zoning and subdivision regulations, the official zoning map for the area in question, the city's currently adopted master plan for the area in question, the staff report and attachments dated September 14, 2020, the application and other documents, plans, pictures, and maps submitted by the applicant in furtherance of the case and contained in the official file, the notice in the Wyandotte Echo, and the notices to property owners. Does any member of the commission have any contact to disclose with regard to this application?
No. Thank you. Ms. Kittinger,
Yes, sir.
welcome. Go ahead and please give us your name and address for the record and tell us about your project.
My name's Maggie Kittinger. My address is 1805 Grand Boulevard, Kansas City, Missouri. And the project is we'd like to purchase 2220 Central Ave building that is owned by Catholic Church of the Archdiocese of Kansas City, Kansas, to use as dormitory for our church staff in Kansas City, Missouri.
Okay. Is it just going to be used as a dormitory, no classroom settings or anything like that? It'll just be for housing?
Just housing, no classrooms, no other usage, just for our staff to live.
Okay. Any questions for the applicant? Okay, just one moment. Commissioner Pauly.
I was having some confusion within the staff report as regarding how many people would be staying there at any given time. It looks like you have a capacity to hold over 200 if you're putting 4 to 6 in each of the rooms, but you're stating only 50 people will be living there.
Because we only have 50, between 45 and 50 staff that will be living there. It's mainly staff who are single, and the majority, the rest of my staff have either live with family or are married or have other housing solutions.
Do you foresee a time in the future where you'd be wanting more than 50 people to be staying there?
I mean, it's possible we could have more, but my current building, the maximum amount of staff I would have would be 150 staff. And right now I'm at 125. So I don't know that if I hire another 25 staff that they're all going to necessarily live there.
I also had a question regarding parking. Do the people that stay in the dormitories tend to have their own vehicles, or?
No, they don't have their own vehicles. I think 2 have their own vehicles, and the rest, we have 2 vans, which we would drive them back and forth between the building. They go to work at 9 o'clock in the morning and generally return at 10 o'clock at night.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for the applicant? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to open up the public portion of the meeting. Is there anyone in the audience that wants to speak in favor of or in opposition to this request? I've got Jessica Bowling.
Hi, yes. First, I apologize that my mic wasn't working earlier when you called on me. Yes, my name's Jessica Bowling. I'm at 2221 Orville Avenue. Our property abuts right up to their parking lot behind the building. We have lived here for over 9 years. We are very involved in the community, and we are very opposed to this special use permit. My children play in our backyard, and I'm sorry, I just don't want the interaction of their church members with my children or anyone in our community. I mean, if they're housing it for their staff, then why not live closer to where their building is? They're all the way over at 18th and Grand on the Missouri side, and I just don't see the point of them living in our neighborhood.
Okay, thank you. I have a Paul that would like to speak. Paul? Paul, are you able to speak? There we
Okay,
go.
I'm
I got you
unmuted
over.
now.
Yes.
Sorry about that. But I've talked to a number of
Sir, I
neighbors.
need your name and address, please, for the record.
Sorry about that. Paul Soptic, 65 South 24th Street. Current president of Wyandotte County Youth Against Crime. And I've talked to a number of people in the community. And first of all, they question the name Church of the Scientology because they're not recognized as a church organization. And the communal living is just, I think it would be detrimental to the neighborhood, as Ms. Bowling said. So we are against this communal living space.
Thank you. Anyone else in the audience who wants to speak in favor of or in opposition to this request? Seeing none, I will go ahead and close the public portion of the meeting, and I will go to Director Hand for staff comment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, this is Director Hand with the Department of Planning and Urban Design. For those of you who aren't familiar, this is the old Bishop Sullivan Center right off of Central. It's been up for sale for not too long, but you know, long enough. There are currently no NOVs on the property. Aside from the opposition you've heard tonight, we've received nothing in advance. So there was nothing included in the staff report in terms of opposition. When we reviewed the floor plans, similar to Commissioner Pauly's comments earlier, there was a conflict between what the floor plans were showing and what the narrative in the back and forth between staff were in terms of how many people per room. So we ended up just counting beds and then confirm with them that it would be no more than 50 people living in the dormitory. 50 people on this property, which is currently zoned R2, is a significant amount of density in the R2 as it relates to what an R2, basically small lot, single family home, duplex type zone would allow. However, with this SUP and sort of some of the things that we put into effect, we are recommending approval for 2 years. The other thing I wanted to quickly mention as it relates to the floor plan, there were a lot of spaces that were denoted as just storage. In fact, some of the floor plans noted up to like 10 different rooms on a floor that were storage. And we noticed that some of those designated storage rooms did sort of overlap with what we understood were some of the multi-purpose rooms in the existing Bishop Sullivan Center. So we've had the question asked and answered here. We've had it in our staff report. They do contend that there's nothing other than residential living that is to occur as a part of this SUP. If classes did begin to occur, if people were being brought in, that would be a different use and would require a different or an amendment to this SUP. So we just wanted to put that on record and make that clear that right now this is just for 50 or so folks or less living. So again, aside from what we heard tonight, there had been no support or opposition, and we do recommend approval with these conditions.
Okay, are there any questions for the director? Commissioner Pauly?
My question is for Mr. Hand. What is because I don't recall ever seeing this before, what is the process when you're taking a building that had not previously been used for people to live in? Like, do they have to go through like a building permitting process? Is there fire suppression? Is there like a fire evacuation plan in place?
This will be a significant rehabilitation renovation of this property to bring it up to code for it to go from its current use to this new use. So when they go to the DRC and for building permits, it will do a complete code review, which will require all of that stuff to be planned, engineered, and then built accordingly. So they'll go through inspections, they'll go through the whole rigmarole.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions for the director? Commissioner Ernst.
I think this is probably a significantly larger number of people than the Archdiocese ever used it for. But I have a question on page 5, item 2, applicant response. There will be 40 bedrooms, approximately 4 people per bedroom. Some bedrooms will have 6 people per room, total of 50 people. I'm not, yeah, 40 rooms, 44 to a room.
Again, if you, we saw that discrepancy as well, Commissioner, and again, this is Gunnar Hand, Director of Planning. So what we ended up doing after going back and forth with the applicant is we just looked at their floor plan and we counted the number of beds. So if you look at the floor plan, oh man, there is about 30-ish rooms denoted there. Most of them are 1 bedroom. Some of them are 1 bed. Some of them have 2 beds. 3 or 4 of them have 3 beds. So we ended up just counting the number of beds we saw on the floor plan and cut it off at 50.
And you don't consider that too dense for the area and the facility?
You know, as a living arrangement, it's a very dense use, but the building can accommodate it, especially since most of, again, there is quite a bit of parking, and most of this is, as they describe it, will be pick up and drop off. I don't know if you know anything about the Church of Scientology, but I lived in LA for the last 8 or 15 years. The one thing I can say is they do a really good job of upkeep on their properties. If you look at their new headquarters at 18th and Grand, they put a lot of money into that property. And so I believe that they will provide the same level of detail to this project, which is a landmark in the neighborhood. It's not necessarily deteriorating, but it's older. And I, you know, while they are basically there just to eat and sleep at night, because again, if you know anything about the Church of Scientology, they do a lot of work during the day and will be out most of the day and then come back. They describe this as being a sort of a van in, van out situation every morning and every night. There are 2 different loading areas on the property. And I would argue during special events, there were much more than 50 people at the Bishop Sullivan Center, depending on what that event was. Just, this is more regular, this is daily. So I get that there's a difference as well.
Thank you.
Other questions for the director? Seeing none, I will stand for a motion. This evening. Questions or a motion is what's in order. Commissioner Pauly.
Motion to deny based on neighborhood opposition.
Second.
Okay, motion is for denial based on public comment this evening, made by Commissioner Pauly, seconded by Commissioner Armstrong. Discussion on motion for denial. Commissioner Ernst? Oh, okay. Seeing none, roll call.
Mr. Chairman, Chairman.
Yes.
I'm sorry. I just want some clarity onto what factors, because there were a couple of different things that were said by the individuals. So was there a specific factor from what was mentioned?
Go to Commissioner Pauly.
Not a specific, well, I aside from the neighborhood opposition, I also have a personal concern with that many people staying in that building. I've been in there several times. I'm just not seeing it. But specifically, generally, if people in the neighborhood don't really want something new to come into the neighborhood, and I try to go with what they say. So I guess it comes down to the lady living very close to the property and not wanting it by her children. And Mr. Soptic's concern with the Wyandotte County Against Crime also not wanting this in their neighborhood.
But it was about the number of people, not specifically related to the institution or the people using it.
No, not for me, not at all.
Okay.
Okay. Further discussion on the motion for denial. Commissioner Jones.
I have a question for Patrick. Patrick, are we to be concerned about it? I was picking up on some maybe perhaps other apprehension from you or wonderment about the motion. Is there anything for us to be concerned with regard to religious considerations?
Well, the first person that spoke, and I don't know, they were very vague about their comments, but they made some comment to the effect of they didn't want those people by their children. And I wasn't clear what they were saying and what they meant by that. And so I wanted to make sure that any motion to deny was not based on any negative inference that that individual may have been making.
I don't know if we can go back now. It's late. I wasn't going to say anything, but I have to acknowledge I have a level of discomfort because I was picking up on there might be some sort of religious ramification concern. And perhaps we should have asked the lady at the time. And I'll take responsibility because I didn't ask, because I did think about what was meant by that comment in opposition specifically.
Right. That's why I wanted to clarify.
This is Susanna Polly. I do want to just jump in and make it extra clear. From my end, nothing like that had anything to do with my decision to request a denial.
Okay. Let me see, I've got another hand up. I'm sorry, Ms. Kittinger, I've already closed the public comment section, but we are on discussion of the motion. Again, motion is for denial. Further discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Armstrong,
Aye.
Conley,
Mr. Connolly?
Nay.
Ernst,
Aye.
Ewing,
Aye.
Jones,
Nay.
Miller,
Aye.
Moeller,
Nay.
Polly,
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, that motion to recommend denial of this application due to the number of people that would be living on the site passes 5 in favor, 3 opposed.
All right, thank you. This will be heard once again on October 1st before the Board of Commissioners via Zoom.
Our next application is Special Use Permit SP-2020-80. Mary Malott and Robin Beatty. Special Use Permit for a short-term rental Airbnb at 3716 Springfield Street. Please include the following items as part of the record for this case. The city's currently adopted zoning and subdivision regulations, the official zoning map for the area in question, the city's currently adopted master plan for the area in question, the staff report and attachments dated September 14, 2020, the application and other documents, plans, pictures, and maps submitted by the applicant in furtherance of the case and contained in the official file, the notice in the Wyandotte Echo, and the notices to property owners. Does any member of the commission have any contact to disclose with regard to this case?
No.
No.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Ms. Malott and Ms. Beatty, are you there? You go. You are ready to speak. Go ahead and give us your name and address, please, for the record.
Yes, absolutely. My name is Mary Milo, and the other owner, Robin Beebe, is here also.
Thank you.
At the property located at 3716 Springfield Street in Kansas City, Kansas 66103.
Can you go ahead and just tell us what you want to do there?
Yes, absolutely. We purchased this as a second home because we have many, many family members that live in the Kansas City area. I don't know if you know how unique it is, but it is an amazing home that was built by the University of Kansas, their architecture program, and it is almost a net zero home due to the solar, the wind turbines, et cetera. So we very much love the property. We love the community. We've been very involved since we moved in cleaning up the community and getting grills fixed at the parks and different things. So we are very involved, but we also would like to have it as a short-term rental through Airbnb, as we are only there half of the year, so that we could bring some income in. To further discuss, we also have video cameras installed both at the front, back, and entrance of the property. We disclose that to everyone. We, like I have it in the manual that we would use, so people would know that there are video cameras, and that is purely to ensure that no one has any parties on this property. It was clearly stated in our manual, and we are also in communication with the neighbors to the right and left of the property. So we have a very good system in place to deter any type of parties, and we believe that could be very helpful in just making sure that our property is protected because it is very unique and very beautiful. We also have our sister, Tiffany Beebe King, and our son, Derek Oldridge, that will be helping with the property when we are not in town. And we do have one company that would be able to clean it, and we use them personally for our personal cleaners now.
Okay. Any questions for the petitioner? Seeing none, I'll open up the public portion of the meeting. Is there anyone who would like to speak in favor of or in opposition to this request? I'm not seeing any hands up, so I will go to close the public portion of the meeting, go to Director Hand for his comments.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Before we get started, I just want to apologize. I'm at the point in time during the day where I need to do my exercises. So that's why my arm is raised in my sling.
I thought you were Commissioner Miller there for a minute.
No, I apologize. And again, for everybody on the call, if I've been wincing, it's out of pain from my shoulder and my elbow, not anything as it relates to any of the cases. I apologize for some of my facial expressions. But with that said, for this case in particular, again, we would note that we received no opposition or support. There are no NOVs associated with this property. Again, it's essentially a short-term rental for the entire property for when the family's not using it. We do recommend approval with a couple of conditions. Usually we will condition that no parties are allowed. Because it was so clearly defined in their manual, we did not specifically add that condition. We did, however, add an additional condition, standard condition that we've been applying and will continue to apply to all short-term rentals moving forward. It's something that we saw when we did a review of other sort of short-term rentals across peer cities. Essentially, it's a little tiny piece of paper, kind of like if you will, like a business license that is to be placed right at the entry, either of the room if it's a single unit, or the front door if it's an entire unit in this case. That basically denotes sort of what the permit approval was, the length of the SUP, and some contact information for the managers of the property. So we thought that was a good standard practice. I just wanted to make that note. Specific to this one, working with the applicant, we determined that it was a 7 guest max and and that all parking was to occur off street in 3 spaces, 2 in the driveway and 1 in the garage, which you could see underneath the property. Again, we recommend approval.
Any questions for the director? Seeing none, I'll stand for a motion.
Motion to approve based on subject to staff comments and stipulation.
Second.
Motion to approve made by Commissioner Jones, seconded by Commissioner Armstrong. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Armstrong,
Aye.
Conley,
Aye.
Ernst,
Aye.
Thank you.
Dewey,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Moeller,
Aye.
Pauly.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, that motion to recommend approval of this special use permit, subject to the staff's comments and suggestions, passes 8 in favor and none opposed.
Thank you. This will be heard once again on October 1st at 7 p.m. before the Board of Commissioners via Zoom.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, our next application is one that was held over from last month. Piper Lake North, final plat for a housing development at 12500 Hollingsworth Road. Please include the following items as part of the record for this case. The city's currently adopted zoning and subdivision regulations, the official zoning map for the area in question, the city's currently adopted master plan for the area in question, the staff report and attachments dated September 14, 2020, the application and other documents, plans, pictures, and maps submitted by the applicant in furtherance of the case and contained in the official file, the notices to property owners, and Mr. Chairman, the email that I received today at 5:25 p.m. that I would like to read into the record, please.
Thank you.
It says, Madam Secretary for the City Planning Commission, please advise and share with the Chairman and Director of Planning and staff. Agreement has been reached within the hour between the HOH and MSA regarding the transfer of the lake, dam, and common areas. The colony at Canaan Lake, known as Piper Lake HOA, will not be objecting to the proposed final plat at this evening's meeting. The parties have reached an acceptable resolution re concerns over the lake and dam. Our thanks to the City Planning Commission and planning staff, respectfully submitted by Dennis Hayes, member of the HOA Board of Directors.
Thank you.
Does any member of the commission have any contact to disclose with regard to this application?
No.
No.
Thank you. I see Mr. Hoppus in the audience, but I do not see Mr. Riddle. Mr. Hoppus, are you going to be speaking on behalf of the applicant tonight?
Yes.
Okay.
And can you hear me okay?
Yes, go ahead and please just start off with your name and address, please, and go ahead and tell us what you've worked out.
Yep. Josh Hoppus, 16208 Gilman Road, Leavenworth, Kansas. The application is for a plat to separate the developable ground to the north of the current development that's known as Canaan Lakes from the designated common areas, which would be the lake, the spillway, and the dam. Essentially, same thing as last month. All we're trying to do is separate the two. They're on one taxable parcel right now, so we're trying to separate the two so that we can facilitate a transition agreement, which has been reached with the HOA.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions for the applicant? Okay, seeing none, I'll open up the public portion of the meeting. I will go to first Dennis Hayes. Go ahead, Dennis.
Thank you. My name is Dennis Hayes. I reside at 4909 North 126th Street, and I serve on the board of directors for the HOA, commonly known as Piper Lake Homeowners Association. On behalf of our HOA, we wish to thank the City Planning Commission for granting a 30-day extension in this matter at last month's meeting. We are pleased to report, as was indicated in the earlier email, that we have been able to reach agreement with Mutual Savings and Loan on the land transfer of the lake, dam, and common areas. And therefore, we now have no objections to this proposed final plat revision of Piper Lake North subdivision. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hayes. Anyone else want to speak? Mr. Hoppus, I see your hand back up. Did you want to add something?
Yeah, sorry, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, all I'll say is it's embarrassing that they're thanking you. That this 30-day delay did exactly what it was expected to do, extorted money out of my company. We've reached an agreement, but the fact Dennis Hayes's comment to this commission tonight is an absolute embarrassment. That
Mr. Hoppus, I'm going to stop you right there because you're really
yeah.
not adding anything to the conversation.
Okay.
It's going to help your
Yeah,
case.
sure, Jeff.
Okay.
All right, buddy.
Seeing no further public comment, I will go to the director for his comments.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is Gunnar Hand, Director of Planning and Urban Design. We were originally, as per the Planning Commission's previous motion, we were going to recommend that this be held over again, but considering the testimony from Mr. Hayes and sort of the representation by the HOA board, we would go ahead and recommend approval for your consideration. The only other thing that I would mention is in our last conversation, the Planning Commission had asked that the restrictions be included in the staff report, and we did add that to the staff report for your information if you had any questions. But again, we recommend approval.
Any questions for the director? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Mueller, seconded by Commissioner Miller. Any discussion on motion for approval? Seeing none, roll call.
Armstrong,
Aye.
Conley,
Aye.
Ernst,
Aye.
Yule,
Aye.
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Mueller,
Aye.
Pauling.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, that motion to approve this plat passes 8 in favor and none opposed.
Great, thank you. This will be heard once again on October 1st.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
this is a final plat, so it will not.
Yes,
go
you're right.
to the district.
Yes, thank you. I'm sorry for that.
No problem. Our next application is plan review application PR-2020-18. Willie Lanier Jr. with Lanier United. Preliminary and final plan review for a mixed-use development, multifamily retail and conference center at 500 Minnesota Avenue, 600 State Avenue, and 645 Nebraska Avenue. Please include the following items as part of the record for this case. The city's currently adopted zoning and subdivision regulations, the official zoning map for the area in question, the city's currently adopted master plan for the area in question, the staff report and attachments dated September 14, 2020, the application and other documents, plans, pictures, and maps submitted by the applicant in furtherance of the case contained in the official file and the notices to property owners. Does any member of the commission have any contact to disclose with regard to this application?
No.
Okay, and who is going to speak on behalf of the applicant? Is that Mr. Peterson? I'm sorry, no, excuse me. I'm one ahead. Mr. Lanier or representative, are you in the audience? Yes, there we go. I see Elizabeth Schultz. Are you wanting to speak as well on behalf of the petitioner?
It would be Willie Lanier speaking.
All right, thank you. Go ahead, sir. Give us your name and address, please, for the record.
Willie Lanier, 11817 Brookwood Avenue, Leewood, Kansas.
Thank you. Want to go ahead and tell us about your project?
We are here after submitting our final development plan and turning it back in July. We will be, we've been in front of the commission before. We look to develop a redevelop of the Jack Reardon Center and the surrounding block. Accompanied with this will be also be athletic fields and a small park on the corner of 6th and State, as well as a athletic field that will run along 6th and Nebraska. The development at hand is a 94 unit building with commercial on the first floor. That would be a 2-story fitness center, as well as approximately a couple thousand square feet of retail on Minnesota and along 5th Street here. Our fitness center will be the balance of the building along Minnesota. In addition to this project, we would be reconstructing a brand new meeting space, convention center that would be right sized for the marketplace, which you've seen already. And that would accommodate for seating purposes or banquet style of about 350 people in a banquet scenario once we get out of COVID, obviously. And then in a conference or theater style, we would have over 500 people in attendance in theater style seating. This is a transformational project for the downtown community. We have worked diligently for quite some time on trying to make sure that we were in sync with the planning department's requirements, and we hope to get your approval this evening.
Thank you. Any questions for the petitioner? Okay, seeing none, I'll open up the public portion of the meeting. I will start with Elizabeth Schultz. Ms. Schultz, did you want to speak?
I have no comment. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else in the audience that would like to speak? Seeing none, I will close the public portion of the meeting. I will go to Director Hand for staff comment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, we've reviewed this case already. It came back for a preliminary and final review again because they essentially added a floor and 15 units to the additional project. So that's a good thing. It still fits all of our standards and requirements for the zone and land use, so we're all good there. It did give us a little more time to finalize some of the details that we were already kind of in the process of working out in regards to some of the public improvements between the two parcels. Again, there's one right at the Reardon Center, and then there's another, technically two, at 6th in Nebraska or 6th in State.
For the athletic fields?
The athletic fields about a block away. So we were able to kind of finalize some of our understanding agreements and design work for those public improvements therein. And with that, I apologize I didn't flip through all this already, but we recommend approval.
Any questions for the director? Seeing none, I will stand for a motion.
Move to approve, subject to the stipulations in the staff report.
Second.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Miller, seconded by Commissioner Armstrong. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Armstrong,
Aye.
Conley,
Aye.
Ernst,
Aye.
Dewey,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Moeller,
Aye.
Hawley.
Polly?
Aye.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, that motion to recommend approval of this plan review, subject to the staff comments and conditions, passes 8 in favor and none opposed.
And this will be heard again, Janet?
Yes.
And this will be heard again October 1st at 7 p.m. before the Board of Commissioners via Zoom. Good luck with your project, Mr. Lanier. It sounds exciting.
Thanks for your help.
Mr. Chairman, we have 2 items left, and neither one of these will go forward to our next Board of Commissioners meeting. They have their own path that they go to. The first one is Village East Home Field Project, finding of conformance to the Prairie Delaware Piper Master Plan of Redevelopment Project Plan for Project A, 2B, Project Area 3, and Project Area 5 of Star Bond Project Plan at 1111 North 98th Street.
Thank you. Now, Director Hand, are you going to be presenting on this one, or are we going to Mr. Peterson?
I think we should go to Mr. Peterson first.
All right.
And I could just add my 2 cents at the end.
All right, thank you. Mr. Peterson, let me go ahead and get you over here. There you go. You should be available to speak.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Planning Commissioners. This is Kurt Peterson. Um, Many of you I know on this commission have seen this exact, I would say, a little bit different out of the box sort of procedural item before you. This is an instance where the developer of a project in the former Schlitterbahn site between 435 to the west, 94th to the east, parallel to the north, and State Avenue to the south, about 380 acres there. There is a proposed new developer there that would buy out the current Schlitterbahn owner, and as part of that would tap into additional STAR bonds, public incentives with unified government, and propose some really exciting uses, all of which will be coming before you soon. Chairman Hand has Director Hand, I should say, has been in the loop on some early discussions, and again, I think would agree that they're big and exciting. We'll be working closely with Mr. Hand's staff, and then be before you soon with that. I say that as an introduction, but also as a contrast to what we're, to show what we're not doing tonight. This has nothing to do with proposed preliminary development plans or final plans or rezonings or anything like that. That will come. All that you have before you tonight is a sentence in the STAR bond statute that says the Planning Commission will take any STAR bond project plan, which is kind of a high-level statutory finance document, and that the Planning Commission will determine if the project plan is consistent with the intent of the master plan. So in this case, the Prairie Delaware Piper master plan. So staff, I know, has written their recommendation. I think there might have, I'll let Mr. Hand explain any details if he wants to, but I know now at least that Mr. Hand and staff are recommending that finding be made by the Planning Commission. This is one of those situations where, Chairman, we could go into all sorts of detail. I'm prepared to do that, but I think I'm going to pause because I know the packet was voluminous and had all the ingredients there. So I'm going to be short with my words, but I am here obviously to answer any questions and after Mr. Hand talks, anybody has.
Great, thank you. And that's actually great advice from an attorney. Be short and sweet.
You're not paid by the word.
There you go. Thank you. All right. Any questions for the applicant? Seeing none. Gunnar, will we need public comment? Okay. Sorry, we'll go ahead and open up the public portion of the meeting. Is there anyone who wants to speak in favor of or in opposition to this request? Seeing no hands up, I will close the public portion of the meeting and go to Director Hand for his comments.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, as the applicant described, this is it's really sort of an administrative step in the state statutes. There are, I believe, up to 6 project areas within the Schlitterbahn site. This is for 3 of them where they're not going to change they're not going to do anything outside of the existing land use designation, which is roughly entertainment and or commercial. We do expect a submission for a large portion of this project that is not one of these project areas, which will potentially need we believe will need a master plan amendment, at which time they'll go through the process. If approved, they'll probably have to then come back because of the STAR bond statute and get this conformance before. We've seen this on multiple projects, including previously with Mr. Lanier's site, because it was a TIF district, and it's similar for a TIF statute. So all that is to say, we looked at the 3 project areas, what they're proposing to do in those areas, and it conforms with the Prairie Piper Delaware master plan.
Okay, and so the motion you want is what is the motion that you're wanting this evening?
The motion is to find that it is in conformance.
In compliance. All right, thank you. Questions for the director? Okay, seeing none, I will stand for a motion.
I move that the City Planning Commission finds that it conforms with the Prairie Delaware Piper Master Plan.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Miller, seconded by Commissioner Huey, that in fact they do find it to be in conformance to the master plan. Any discussion? Excuse me. Excuse me, 1 second. Commissioner Connolly.
Yeah, I guess I don't see any plans here. So what? I'm kind of confused here. Am I not? Is there not anything there for us to look at, or?
This is Director Hand. Again, what they're proposing is that there's 3 bubbles on the diagram, 3 large project areas. They're going to do those stated proposed uses. Those uses comply with what is allowed in the entertainment and/or commercial district of the Piper Delaware Master Plan.
So we're only discussing whether or not they're
there is
going to be in
no-
conformance with the master plan, and we'll be seeing a plan later on, correct?
Yeah, there are no site plans for the actual development.
Okay. So say that, because I mean, if I don't see any plans, I mean, how I know what's going to happen, or it doesn't matter, and how do I know that it agrees with the Piper plan? If I don't see anything, just take your word, or?
Commissioner Connolly, am I still on, guys? Just to make sure
Yes,
I'm not talking to myself. Okay.
Go ahead,
Hi,
Mr.
Commissioner
Peterson.
Connolly. This is Kurt Peterson. It's a good question. Again, it's out of the box, right? It's not what you normally see with FDP, PDP rezoning. So, like we said, there's 3 project plans that are in your packet, and it's really words as opposed to pictures, because there really is no specific site plan with elevations and such. They don't exist yet. The statute has us take really our project plan that's a set of words, which again is in your packet, and that is what you're to assess, and what professional staff has assessed is consistent with the intent of the master plan, which is all the statute asks. So you're right, you're not going to find elevations and renderings and things like that because they don't exist. That's not where we're at in the process yet.
Again, this is
I don't see any words or anything. Where's it at?
Director Hand, is it right to refer to the packet, I assume, or you tell me, maybe
Yeah,
you take over?
This is the one that was sent to you today in an email earlier
It's not in the
this morning.
staff.
It was sent this morning.
And it is simply a narrative.
Other questions or a follow-up question, Commissioner Connolly?
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, roll call.
Aye.
Conley,
Aye.
Ernst,
Aye.
Huey,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Moeller,
Aye.
Foley. Mr. Chairman, that motion, that project areas 2B, 3, and 5 of the Star Bond project plan conforms to the Prairie Delaware Piper Master Plan, passes 8 in favor and none opposed.
Okay, will that motion go before the Board of Commissioners?
No, they have their own
This goes on,
timetable for other things.
these two things will go on a different path.
Correct.
All right, thank you.
Our next item on the agenda is the Riverfront Redevelopment District. Finding of conformance to the citywide master plan for redevelopment project plan for project area 1 of the Riverfront Redevelopment District at 200 South James Street.
Okay, and I see an Aaron March with his hand up. Are you going to be presenting on behalf of? Mr. March?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, Aaron March with the Rouse Fritz White Cost Law Firm, here tonight on behalf of the applicant. Good evening. Excuse me. Just like the case you heard a moment ago, this is a technical requirement of the Star Bond statute. We have a TIF plan, project plan coming up before the Board of Commissioners in Project Area 1 of the Riverfront Redevelopment District. We are proposing the construction of 225 to 240 apartment units. You heard and considered a master plan amendment not too long ago to change the master plan designation of this area from industrial to mixed use. And in Project Area 1 or Phase 1, you saw the concept for apartments. We are starting to move that through the TIF program, and we will be coming back to you later with the rezoning so that everything matches up. This is simply your finding that our desire under the TIF project plan to build multifamily conforms with the recently amended master plan. And we would ask that you find that it does, and as staff does, make that determination. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. Questions for Mr. March? Seeing none, I'll open up the public portion of the meeting. Anyone in the audience that wants to speak in favor of or in opposition to this request? I'm not seeing any hands up, so I will close the public portion of the meeting and go to Director Hand for comments.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, similar to the previous one, staff reviewed this and finds that it is in conformance. Again, this is for a land use amendment that was approved last month. We changed it over to mixed use. We are currently in the process of reviewing. This was submitted, and we are currently in the process of reviewing the site plan for this project, which you'll see in your October agenda packet moving forward. So again, our recommendation is to find that it is in conformance.
Okay. Commissioner Connolly, you have a question for Director Hand? Nope, you were unmuted before. Now you're muted. You need to unmute yourself, Commissioner Connolly.
I have a problem with us approving a plan that I don't see. And I don't know what council feel about it, and I don't know why we're not seeing the plan when staff said they seen the plan and they're not issuing the plan to us. But I definitely have a problem, and I want that to be known.
Can we go to Patrick? Patrick, can you provide some comment on that? We're not actually approving a plan. Can you go ahead and provide some explanation or clarification?
So you're finding that the project plan, which is the document that's submitted, should be an exhibit to the attachment, that the plan that is described in that, and it's more words than pictures, is in conformance with our master plan. Here in this case, I mean, we all know, I think, it's the apartment project. So I don't have that document right in front of me, but I don't know if there's a specific picture there. But what you're saying is multifamily apartment development, is that in conformance with, at that location, does that conform to our master plan? And just last month, you approved a master plan amendment that would allow for this. So what you're simply saying is that a multifamily development such that they are proposing conforms at that location with the master plan of the city. That's what you're finding tonight.
Okay.
But yeah.
All right, thanks.
Other questions for either legal or the director?
Commissioner Carson, this is Gunnar Hand, Director of Planning. Just as a quick clarification, for future instances, and maybe this is actually a question towards legal, should we submit like that previous case? I think we do by reference, but to Mr. Connolly's point, I mean, it doesn't matter if we added other stuff as an attachment that would help explain visually what's going on. Does that make sense, or is that irrelevant?
Sure. I mean, the project plan is the document, but to the extent that you have additional pictures or photographs that would be helpful.
Commissioner Connolly, again, this is Gunnar Hand. When we get these in the future, we can add additional attachments to make it a little more clear what we're talking about, because I understand where you're coming from. It is a little, it's basically legalese, right? So we can add some exhibits that help explain what's going on.
All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So
Excuse me, go ahead, Commissioner Jones.
So my question is just because I can understand where Commissioner Connolly is coming from, but just for clarification for the future, when I took it as we got the description, And from a legal standpoint and an appropriateness standpoint, Patrick, if we have that description and the description is found to be adequate, that could suffice. And it's just, and on top of additional information, if we have the full plan.
That's correct. That's
Okay.
correct.
And which the full plan will then come to us at a later date for further evaluation and approval, correct?
Correct.
Thank you. Okay, anything else? All right, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the finding of conformance to the master plan at 200 South James Street.
Second.
Motion to approve the findings of conformance made by Commissioner Jones, seconded by Commissioner Armstrong. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Armstrong,
Aye.
Conley,
Aye.
Ernst,
Aye.
Ewing,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Moeller,
Aye.
Polly.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, that motion that project area 1 of the Riverfront Redevelopment District conforms to the citywide master plan passes 8 in favor and none opposed.
Thank you. And Janet, that is the last item on the agenda. Is that correct?
I think that Mr. Hand has just a couple of announcements, and then that'll be it.
I also have one that we will be hearing the Central Avenue Master Plan in October. Is that correct, Gunnar?
That is correct.
That'll be before us for approval.
Yep.
Okay. Anything else you have?
I just wanted a reminder for the commissioners who did not make our training last month. Ms. Parker did send out all the materials from that training. So if anybody had any questions or wanted to talk about anything that we talked about, I'd be more than happy to touch base with those of you who could not make it last month. So just want to put that out there.
Great.
Mr.
Thank you.
Chairman,
Yes, Janet.
we also did record that session, and also all the planning commission members that attended. Don't forget, you were supposed to sign that last page of the ethics training and turn it in to me.
Okay. Thank you for that reminder. Anyone have anything else before we adjourn? All right. Well, thank you all for being here tonight. Thank you for your patience, and thank you to those in the audience for staying till the very end. Thank you all. Have a good evening.
Good night.
Good night.
Right.
Take care.
Gunner, what did it do to the bike? That's the important thing.
Actually, it didn't do much. You know, I was just going like 10 miles an hour, taking a left turn, and it slid out from underneath me. And I got to repaint the gas tank. I broke my foot shifter, and then I lost a left turn signal or two. So nothing major, but I shattered my elbow in 7 places and broke my collarbone. That's the real.
We'll be doing our best Gunner impressions.
Beats anything I ever did, but painful is not as bad as prideful.
Oh yeah, well that ain't that the truth.
There you
Well,
go.
if you count the elbow as 1 break instead of 7, and the shoulder as another break, I've had 19 broken bones in my lifetime.
Wow.
Well, I'm not sure that Mrs. Hand is going to let him back on that bike.
No. That was my last ride on a motorcycle.
Oh, was it? I was going to say, you
Yeah.
probably should stick with 4 wheels.
Yeah.
I told him he could ride his helmet in the car.
There you go. You see people driving around with their masks on.
Yeah, right.
All right. Good night, all.
Thank
All right,
you.
thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
Good night.
Mariah, is there anything that you need to do?
What?
Is your name Mariah?
It can be. I'm not Mariah Carey, but you know.
Okay. Well, I'm just going to end this thing. It's been real.